The meeting's being live streamed.
Yes, sir. Yes, we are. Uh, and to everyone in the participant audience and the YouTube audience, we greet you with the greetings of peace. Assalamu alaikum. That means the peace that only the Creator can give be upon you. And for a little more insight, it also means that there is an obligation upon us when that greeting is given to keep the peace, to advance the peace. And we're not just talking about the absence of conflict. We're talking about the wholeness of the human being and the human life to
Mhm.
advance that expression of peace. Alhamdulillah. Uh, we've got a little light shining on you today, Imam
Yeah,
Abdul.
no, yeah, it's still early for us here. The
I
sun is
follow.
setting. The sun is
So
setting, and
we're going to work with it.
okay, let me see if
Yeah.
I can move. That's fresh from the outside. See, in my window, I got one of
Okay.
them shades.
So
I'm way up high.
we'll work with it.
Okay, I'm up high. It's going down though. By 8
Yeah.
o'clock, it'll be down.
Yes,
8
sir.
o'clock my time. Our time,
So,
East Coast.
are you hearing me loud and clear?
Yes, I am.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah.
Again, greetings to the audience. I'm your host, Michael Hamin, and this is not just talk on the platform AM 360 broadcast, the Zoom broadcast platform. And we have as our, 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 our guest. I'm privileged to work with him, collaborate with him, Imam Muhammad Abdul Alim of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the home of the birth of my mother. And
Okay,
I have,
family here. Okay.
yeah, I've got connections there. So we will begin. And the subject matter we're dealing with this evening is what, Imam?
Well, I wanted to continue to look at Ibrahim as the model, and I'm looking at, and particularly at him as an independent thinker.
Yes.
And I'm looking at two aspects of his. One is, or the main one is where he is in Surah 2, excuse me, in Surah Baqarah ayat 260, where he asks Allah, show me how you raise the dead. All right. And then the response is, you don't believe? He said, no, so that my heart is cold, it can be at peace. And I wanted to begin with the idea that Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah, wa nashhadu anna Muhammad abduhu rasuluhu. I want to begin with the idea that if you in a belief system and you and your soul not at peace, according to this example, you have the right to question. See, to too many people, and especially in religious communities, they suffer in silence. They're not clear on what did they believe, and if they take spiritual abuse and intellectual abuse, they will eventually take physical abuse. And I want to use this as a segue because I hope, inshallah, is our guest still in for tonight? The Dr. Youssef? I can't hear you. I can't hear you, Brother Michael. Well, no, no, everything's on over here. Mm, can't hear.
Can you hear me now?
And I can finally hear you. I can hear you now. I couldn't hear you
Okay.
before.
Yeah, I was having trouble with my
So
equipment.
you got that straight now?
Yes, sir. Alhamdulillah. All right. So
I,
the
I was,
focus tonight?
I'll say, well, I wanted to, Bismillah, man, I wanted to look at Abraham's questioning for understanding of the concept of raising the dead. And I want us to look at the answer, but I want us to begin by looking at the fact that he is willing to ask. See, because too many people in religious communities, they tend to suffer in silence. They don't understand something and they won't ask a question for clarity.
Yes.
It's very important that as someone is bringing you concepts in religion, that you ask them if something you don't understand, ask for clarity. And this example that we're given here in Surah Baqarah, the second chapter of the Quran, called the cow, the 260th verse, where Abraham asked Allah, "Show me how you raise the dead." And then the response to that was, Allah says, "You don't believe?" He says, uh, and it says, "I believe, but so that I can be, my heart can be at peace, can be ta'inna means not troubled."
Yes.
All right, and this is we're gonna follow this idea of achieving that sense of peace up until it comes to the judgment itself. The judgment of the human being is when they find peace, and this same concept comes up in Surah 89, the 30th, the 20, the 26, 26, 26, 27, 28, 29, yeah, verses of Surah of chapter 89. All right, it says, "Nefsu mutma'inda," the soul that has found complete. It translated as complete rest and satisfaction. But long before this, is earlier in your readings, in your reading of Quran, this idea of this peace, this satisfaction, this soul is not in contention, is mentioned here, and is mentioned in conjunction with asking a question. So that's what we have to realize, that we are not. God doesn't want us just to be blind followers. All right, he want us to. If something is bothering us, then, and especially a major concept like raising the dead, that's a major concept in theological concepts. That's very major. All right. So I want to talk about that because you hear a lot of the imams in our association using this particular verse, especially the answer about take the four birds and train them and place a part of them each on four mountains, and then when you call them, they'll come. Then we know all that's allegorical language, but it should be understood in this simple language first before you get into the allegorical angle. Is that is first of all, it's a question being asked, and that tells you the human being. God expects the human being. If it's something is bothering your heart, it says Colby. It says something. It says so my heart may be ta'enda. If something is bothering your heart, ask God. See, too many of us in religion, especially religious communities, uh, don't feel comfortable acknowledging what we don't know.
Mm.
All right. In fact, I was reflecting on how in this association of Imam Mufti Muhammad, we spent the last 50 some odd years trying to prepare us for a better understanding of Quran and its application, but people won't ask questions. It's something is bothering them when they come across in their studies. So you find people who have been in this association for as long as we've been together since 1975 and still don't feel the comfortability that should come with having the things in their heart answered. And for example, one of the big things that people I remember talking about this on Study Al Islam, the what we call it the transition, 1975 February.
Yes.
That was a momentous occasion, and it left a lot of people confused and bewildered. All right, and for many of them, even though they physically made the transition, they came along with the imam, but there were questions in their heart and mind that never had answered. So they never could get the full benefit of his commentary because they were still left, certain things were not resolved from the beginning. For example, and we should be able to talk about this now because people seem to be, I think they're a little more settled. The passing of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad himself.
Yes.
People had come up under the impression, under the teaching actually, that he would never die. That was not a part of the theology of the Nation of Islam. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad would ever die. So when it was announced, now many of the leaders they knew about it. He was sick and then he died, but the common believers were left. They were stunned. They were stunned. You hear me? They were stunned. And for some, it was like it actually took them out of the association, out of the
Yeah.
community. You know, you find people today who was hurt by that, and all the people had to do is answer the questions they had. You know, but in order to do that, you had to attest to the fact that he was not. There's no human being that lives forever. All right, but we weren't taught that. All right, we were given allegorical teaching that gave the impression that he would live forever, live 800, 900 years, some long period of time, but not in our lifetime, and not before the judgment, we say. We thought that before he would die, judgment will come. All right? These are things that now I meet people, Muslims people who were Muslims back in that day. That some people still haven't reconciled. They still got their heart not hadn't been at ta'inda. They still are somewhat, because they feel betrayed. Because here was another example of what we as the people, I'm talking about the general African American population, another leadership that
Let down.
promised us all these things, and it didn't deliver. And in fact, as the Imam would try to put us on, Imam would put us on solid footing. People got mad at him for telling us how bad things were financially. They would rather believe a lie than to know the truth.
Yes.
And so for years, people were, they were like completely disorientated, right? The whole idea of W. Farad not being God in the flesh. People, they couldn't accept that this human being wasn't God. Again, and so what I'm saying is that had they asked questions of some of the things that were taught, they would have been in a better situation mentally, spiritually, morally than what happened to be caught off guard that way. And people, as you know, people lost their home, they lost their families, they lost their children. It was a terrible time. And so I think that our work then, and it still continues today, is to try to get people to see that Your relationship with God or with Allah is the most important relationship, but that relationship requires that you be honest with yourself so that you can be honest with your Lord. And then here's an example. I'm pointing to Abraham because he is considered, said in the Quran, he is a friend of Allah. He is a friend of Allah. Something was bothering his soul, his heart. He asked a question. So the question will be that how many people ask a question when things were bothering their hearts? Because certain contradictory messages uh, were given. But if you never ask a question, you believe without evidence. When things begin to fall apart, at that point now, you are going to suffer very traumatic uh, uh, situations because you have a belief that's not founded in reality. And there's so many people today, and I'll go as far to say, not only as those individuals, but also their children and some of their children's children. You figure now, we can talk like this now because we well over 50 years since. But I can recall, for example, I came to Philadelphia to teach at a two-part assignment to teach the ministers the Quran so they know the religion. This was as we was making what we call making a transition. Another part was to set up our school. And our school at that time, listen to this, brother. We had a school that had grown. We just purchased a building, the building that you see, 4700 Wyalusing Avenue in Philadelphia. It's probably one of the only school buildings that's in our actual school building.
Hmm.
We had 800 students, 10 buses, and we were full-time school. All right. But when the reality begins to hit, things begin to fall apart. And when you try to bring people into a reality of faith and trust, this is one of the biggest problems we have today, is that people today have a hard time believing after having experienced such a traumatic disappointment. That's why as I travel around the country, I see, especially in the area of education, for example, there's very few cities where we have recovered enough to have a functioning school that is worthy of being called a school, for example. Ain't that something? 50 years later,
Yeah,
that damage.
I have been looking at that situation,
Hmm.
and I work with a group called the Consortium,
Okay.
facilitated by uh, Dr. Hamid El Amin,
Hmm.
and the purpose is to work with uh, educators,
Hmm.
classroom teachers, uh, to really establish, in terms of institutional life,
Hmm.
the Islamic education. Uh, and my, my thinking is that, we focus on the brick and mortar subject of the school, but there has to be an environment. You talk about directional
Hmm.
language,
Hmm.
uh, and directional language environment. It
Hmm.
has to be an environment whereby not only the children are being focused on,
Hmm.
but grandma, grandpa, mom and daddy, we all, and this was a part of the early nation, pardon me, the early leadership of Imam Muhammad. Adult education.
Hmm.
All of us need to know the Quran. We
Hmm.
need to know the life example of Prophet Muhammad, and
Hmm.
and, and this will move us. Imam invited the businessmen and women to make
Hmm.
the Quran their business partner, because
Hmm.
when you know the Quran like that, as a partner, you're getting the sensitivities
Hmm. Hmm.
for a community leader,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
recognizing your responsibility.
Hmm.
in that leadership to support those vital efforts like education.
Let me just follow what you're saying. Uh, we used to have a annual program. It's called a Family Life Conference, FLC, and every year we would do like an assessment. We would meet, and we had different things. We had things for, like I said, adult education, the children, early education, regular education, business education, but what we found was that in time, the Muslim community drifted into a spiritualism.
Mm,
They were more concerned with looking like a Muslim and using certain Islamic terminology than institutionalizing Islamic concepts.
that's
So
a
that's what,
Negro pattern, man.
yes, oh, yes, okay. So what happened? So what happened is that, see, remember now, I'm telling you where we were at in terms of school, but also the business community begin to lose its uh, form in the community because see, if people
Mm,
don't understand how the religion supports these other institutions. They think that all
yes,
they have to do is, like I said, look like that, and then that part of the religion is done. But no, in order for you to make your business a Muslim, for example, or make the Quran your business partner, you got to know that. You got to know more about the Quran. In fact, I used to have an expression. I said the Quran works on you and you works on it.
mm,
And that means that you could tell if a person is trying to understand what God is saying by how he is his behavior is changing, being modified. If you saying to me that you're a Muslim and you praying 5 times a day, I don't care if you know no Arabic, but 5 times a day you're calling on God in the language you know. So you know English, call on him in English. He speaks English, trust me. But what happened if you, after a while you no longer trust the directional language that Imam is giving us, so you begin to drift into these other communities where they have more into spiritualism, language
mm,
of the Arabic language and Arabic culture, Southeast
yes,
Asian culture. So you're losing the direction and the steps that we're trying to take as a group. And you think that by going over to somebody else's uh, 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 movement, so to speak, that you as African American are gonna skip the correcting steps of your behavior and your psychology that you bring with you. So what people got to keep in mind, brother, is this, and I said this before. In the Quran, Allah talks about in Surah 17, ayat number 84. He says, "Kullum yahmel ala shakilati." Each of you gonna act or perform according to what you've been shackled with. It's a very important ayat, even though it's overlooked by many of the scholars and many of especially in our community, the imams. They forget to look at what behavior tendencies do people bring with them to Islam. If you don't recognize this person got some serious behavior problems in his makeup, like you just used the expression of what we said, Negro behavior, something. Well, well we got to stop then. What is Negro behavior? Because
yes,
in order for us to for him to get the benefit of Islam, he has to correct whatever his Negro behaviors are. He's not going to benefit from Islam and keep the Negro behaviors. It's not going to work.
yes,
He has to be able to have that transformative. It reminds me of something. We used to say this in the Nation of Islam. When a person became a Muslim, they go through a transformation. Not just they go home and put on a bow tie and a suit and all that, but they stop hanging out with their friends that they used to. They stop eating the food they used to. They are transformed into they have a new behavior pattern, a new behavior. That's why some people have been known to go cold turkey from drug addiction, cold
That's
turkey
right.
from certain illicit behavior tendencies, because their belief was so strong that they was willing to give up behavior that were contradictory to the new life they were coming into.
Yes.
Nowadays, people believe that they can just put on a certain clothing that look different from what they were doing before, and that will solve their behavior problem. No, it don't.
We saw that during the Black nationalist days, dashikis and Afro pics.
Right. But see, but that was lightweight. That was lightweight because what happened is that, see, that was only touching on the problem. Like I say again, the dashikis and the afros was the struggles within the African American soul to reclaim a cultural identity. All right, so in his mind, he
Yes.
knew that didn't get him home, but at least it appeared. All right, but now let's take that same idea. We now come to Islam. We come to Islam. We think that these behaviors that we have. All right, because remember now, you gotta I was you gotta go back really. Let's think about this. Your first relationship with your first independent relationship with God, uh, in your hereditary life goes back the choice that was made coming out of slavery. Most African Americans, if not all African Americans, at one point were Christian. You got to think about this because we didn't. It wasn't like we got to understand that in the context of this. We didn't have two or three choices that you can be an African, you can be a Muslim, you can be a Christian, you can be a Buddhist. No, you had to accept Christianity as the relationship with Almighty God, because it carried with it certain, and we refer to it today as certain plantation ghosts. All right, that's
Yes.
how we refer to it now, but we refer to it that way. Then it was like there was a lot of good behaviors that we brought out of that.
That's right.
Certain family structure things that we brought from that relationship, because we can see that shortly after slavery was one of the most productive times in the African American community life coming out of slavery was one of the most productive times that ever in our history. In fact,
Yes.
I would go as far as to say we haven't been that productive since.
Yes.
Tell me a
Oh,
time
I
when we set
agree.
up we set up towns and universities, right? So so it wasn't only just our theological, our spiritual belief, but I think that we still had certain core sentiments of wanting to establish the excellence of our humanity that gave us the impetus to push forward in spite of being ex-slave, in spite of Jim Crowism, in spite of the discrimination, in spite of all that, we still managed to get a semblance of the establishment of human life. But as
We were able to do more with less.
more with less, and hold on to something that we could pass on. That
Yes.
was legacy. Right now, all right. Now let's fast forward, say 100 years. Let's go from 1865 to 1965. Islam is beginning to grow in America. All right, Islam is beginning to grow in America, and we now have a situation where you have an example of the growth of Islam and a community example in the Nation of Islam with Donna Muhammad, but it has some major theological problems. I'll say it that way. But as far as the social agenda, it was working. People were people getting their family life together, was having more was doing education, we were doing more business. Now, we wasn't doing a whole lot of politics. We didn't see anything in politics, but at least we had those things going that were some of the fundamental building blocks of, say, our community life. That was, say that. So between 65 and 75 that reached its peak, and now we begin to have a problem within in the community of the rise of corruption. Criminal gangs begin to flourish. I know down here in Philadelphia, it was one of the main problems that I was told to deal with, but not deal with them by confronting them, but giving the common people the correct scriptural knowledge, how to trust God, how to believe in God, how to follow the word of God, and thereby reach the type of type of achievement that one would have if they put complete faith in God. All right. And God being the creator of the heaven and earth, that's something made up. But what happened, that got sabotaged along the way. So we have to ask ourselves some questions. How do we get back to the type of productive or community life? Now that we got the clear message, we got the clear directional language, we got all these things now are clear. What's holding us back now? What's standing in our way? All right. And we have come to the point now where we got to begin to do the type of self-examination. Each message got to look at its own self, look at its leadership. How productive has that leadership been in teaching and inspiring us to learn the religion and to apply the religion? Some of us got leaders that have been around for the last 50 years. Our leaders got to look at themselves and say, look, has my time expired? I need to pass on the leadership and its responsibility to a younger group. The next group of leaders got to look at what are the challenges that are there that the new group got to face. All right. For example, I'll use Philadelphia as a case study. And we got here in 70 in the late 75. We had a bad reputation, very bad reputation. And what happened was, so our first work was to clear up the misrepresentation.
Misrepresentations, yeah.
We had to clear that up. And one of the things we used to do, some people didn't like it. If a person got caught robbing a bank, calling himself a Muslim, we put an ad in the newspaper. Say, this person is not a member of our masjid, of our community.
Yes.
In other words, see, the rise of the criminal mind among the Muslims came at the same time as so-called no snitch. We were willing to let the religion of Islam be scorned and mocked in the name of some.
Yeah.
All right. Rather than us telling people that's not Islam in the name of some type of false brotherhood, we would take the weight of that. But I told the people, I said, no,
You got to do it.
uh, uh, Assalamu alaikum, brother. You got to, excuse me.
I got him.
You got it?
I got him. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see.
We will let people know no, because see, one of the things that you'll find, brother, Michael, that our people, we give shelter to the criminals. We somehow we felt that the criminal was okay, because he was sticking it to the man. But the argument that we would give was that the very people who are selling these drugs are the ones we're claiming to be one to raise up. How can you raise up our people if you're giving our people drugs? I mean, how can you be raising up our people if you're the one robbing them when they go to work? See, so our moral compass was way off, way off. We began to think that it was okay as long as we were doing it to somebody else, It's like, for example, this one give for example. I will use this example. People may not like it, but I do. When some of another race killed the black man, we all on the news. We got, oh my goodness, this is racist and all this. But every week we see black on black crime. What do we have to say about that? Nothing. A little baby gets shot because some knuckleheads don't know how to shoot a gun, shooting at each other, and a lady and her baby both get killed. What do we say about that? See, when you lose your moral compass and you begin to not stand up for justice, whether for or against you, then you begin to lose the blessings of God that you would have if you was true to that concept of justice for all, whether it be your your near kin or whatever.
Right.
This has been for us here, and I'm sure in other cities too, part of the big problem, our big struggle, because the Muslims, we bring with us a certain amount of hurt, and we don't realize a lot of times we take our hurt out on each other,
That's true.
and we want the world to forgive our hurt to each other, but we want the world to punish anybody else who hurt us. That's hypocritical. Wrong is wrong.
Yes.
So this has been our struggle, and I praise be to Allah. Uh, it hasn't been the popular position, but it has been the most productive. And because when you rely on God to guide your footsteps, and you want to know, show me how you raise the dead, and not that you don't believe, but you know your heart's not at peace because you see things happening that's in contradictory to what you believe your religion stands for. And you got to stand on that, not on what is popular belief. That means that you may lose some friends, you may lose some family members, but you still stand on what you know is right. And as the years go by and the dust settles, you find that by making those strong
Yes,
decisions,
sir.
that life is worth living. That
The,
life is
the,
worth
the
living.
way the way of Al Islam has been proven.
Hmm.
It has a history. It
Yes,
has a it has a track record.
right.
You know, uh, in terms of being followed properly
Hmm.
as well as deviation from the
That's
way.
right. That's right. That's
And
right.
so that has to be understood.
Hmm.
We need again where knowledge comes in. We have to know. We
Hmm.
have to have a clear understanding. We have to have uh, uh, the weight of informed decision making tools.
Hmm. Hmm. That's right.
So this is this is the way. And I was thinking as you were giving us a history earlier. You
Mm.
know, uh, I was thinking about the Trail of Tears.
Mhm. Yes.
Uh, we have a path that we have as a group, African Americans,
Hmm.
and it began in terms of the production of a new people
Hmm.
with chattel slavery. But
Yes.
there were issues that we had even before coming to America, our
Hmm.
ancestors,
Hmm.
and
Yes.
so it's a path that by Allah's permission, he's helping us to navigate to see the better way.
Yes.
I oftentimes have looked at Al Islam, and other ways of living, you
Mm.
know, how it's a big test,
Yes.
and how the proof of the pudding and the proof of the testing is in the product that's produced.
Yes. That's the key.
And so if we give ourselves faithfully to Al Islam, to the Quran, and to the life example of Prophet Muhammad, we will get the good results that others in the past have gotten.
Hmm. And that's a good point because what happens, a lot of times we miss that point, is that at the point we begin to really study and get into Islam, and in the 1920s and 30s and on. Islam was at its weakest. Islam was not a great a civilization by that point. The last caliphate, which was in Turkey, Ottoman Empire, had collapsed. So to really get the benefit and energy from the religion of Islam, you had to go back to the original sources, which is the Quran. You couldn't just look at the history because the most recent history was one of defeat. Remember
Mm,
during World War One and Two, the Ottomans was on the wrong side of history,
yes,
right? So we couldn't use that as a model, all right? And and we didn't have correct knowledge of the religion. So again, I would say that without hesitation that much of what we're doing now, in terms of teaching people, is one of the we are bringing in, like you said, a fresh new look at applying Islam in this environment we call the Western civilization,
yes.
right? And so and
Well,
we
you
ourselves,
now.
huh?
Hmm.
Was that what you say?
I was thinking in terms of the history of America,
Hmm.
and we come to identify uh, the beautiful principles of American democracy and other qualities of institutional development. We see a connection with the Islamic Renaissance.
Absolutely, yes. But even that, but I say this from my study of the rise of the American civilization, it it has only it has the ingredients for a great civilization, but again, it never lived up to that. We are a living witness that this country, we can best demonstrate the excellence of the great principles of the founding doctrines of this country because we don't live the hypocritical life. See, it's like this. From our study of American democracy, I think it is the wisdom of God to have slave owners write the Constitution. All right, and then think about it now. Thomas Jefferson, he's writing "All men are created equal." He's looking out his kitchen window. He got a field full of slaves.
That's right.
He's writing this down. So obviously he was inspired, but he never knew that one day those slaves or their descendants will make those words true for everybody.
Yes, sir.
That is the plan of God.
He
Listen,
couldn't
we
see
got to
it.
realize that these things that are there were like seeds. It wasn't people they get mad at the founding fathers. I said, no, don't think that they lived up to what they wrote. That
No.
they were the vehicle by which the ideas were to come. We are the ones to make the ideas a reality. See, but
Yes.
why do I say that with such confidence? See, when you have experienced such human degradation, such human privation, and when you come to Islam, you are yearning to see justice. You're yearning for freedom. You're yearning for equality. You're yearning for these things. Therefore, so you look at the Constitution and Declaration different than somebody who've had the privilege of living under that all their generations. We don't have that. We are fresh at the understanding of freedom and democracy and all that. We're not old hands at this. That's why a lot of times I want to bring this home now. A lot of times in our massages, they're ran like dictatorships because the person don't know about a Shura home. Many of our
Yeah.
massages, many not just
Yeah.
in Africa, especially in African American community, the imam becomes like a king. And
I
I
call
tell
them
you,
tribal leadership.
a tribal exactly. So, but as the people grow in Islamic knowledge, they begin to see that this is that I we talked about. They got to ask questions. They got to be free enough in their intellect, in their soul, to try to understand. Show me how you raise the dead.
Yes.
Not that I don't believe, but I want to be at peace in my heart. Right. And that's where we are
So
today.
that type of intellectual curiosity is the highest standard of faith, not blindly
Not
following.
blindly following, no, blindly following. In fact, I'm hoping when tonight when we have Dr. Yusuf on, he talks about this, the whole thing of, I like a term he uses, of the weaponization of religion. Too many people have fallen victims to people using religion as a weapon to oppress people.
Yes.
But it's not new.
No, it's
It's
not.
new because the Quran talks about the Satan. So he's gonna wait on you where in the he gonna sit in where in the straight path.
And he brought a conversation to our father, Adam, and his spouse,
Mm-hmm.
that he was a sincere
The advisor.
advisor.
And something that we talk about a lot on your program is language. See,
Yes.
sitting is the behaviors of language. The structure of language helps your mind sit on certain concepts, come to rest on certain concepts.
Yes.
So that's what Satan and his influences has done. He has put his influences in even interpretation of religious concepts. All right, and what we have to do is that we have to build model our communities where the example of the free spirit, the free mind, the free thinker exhibit. In other words, the whole idea behind, say, sure, Bannerham is that everybody can make a contribution. If you got a thought you want to contribute to the betterment of the whole, we want to hear it. We don't want to think that only a few people can think. No, we want to hear your contribution. What are you, brother, sister, what, you want to contribute to how we can further advance the community life? We want to hear that. And so that's where we at now.
Yes.
You got to be a free thinker enough to want to make a contribution because all of what you're doing should be serving the plan of God. Should be taking us off course. Two other people, they just want to
What
say something to say something. No, no,
what
no.
I'm seeing. I recently listened to an address by Imam Muhammad,
Uh-huh.
and there are certain things that we, from our past experience with religions,
Hmm.
you know, we uh, we're not yet connected with the idea that to follow God's guidance, there's an obligation on us.
Mm.
There's an obligation on us in terms of organizing ourselves
Hmm.
and the obligation in terms of leadership.
Right.
Um, that this language is new to us,
Hmm.
because the blood took care of everything,
Hmm.
the being washed in the blood took care of all of the issues,
All our
we
sins,
didn't
all
have
our
to do
problems.
anything,
Hmm.
you know, and
Well, see,
so
well, I can say, remember now, that's a twofold problem. Remember now, those coming from a church life had that as a problem. Those coming from Nation of Islam life, all the problems were handled by the messenger. They said the messenger he knew
yes,
all the answers. So we had a double whammy. Not only were we conditioned by Christian philosophical thought, but we were conditioned by Nation of Islam mythological language.
yes,
So we had so our work for the last 50 years has been trying to get people to break free of those tendencies. Like go back to the ayat I point out, you're going to perform according to what you shackled with. And if you've been shackled with these tendencies, you got to go back and look at them and you got to put aside those things that are holding you back. If you never do that, you're always going to run the risk of having something that's going to curtail your struggle in the road towards human excellence. You're not going to reach
yes,
that excellence because you got too many roadblocks that you carry with you. That's why you see
self-imposed.
That's why you see some in some families, for example, you see people who have overcome those tendencies. Oh, they doing fine. Children are going well. Husband and wife having a happy marriage. Children are going on, and they going well in life. They going well in their academics and in their careers. But those who got these shackles that they don't address, it's something that I refer to Brother Michael as Islamic denialism. Islamic denialism is when you use Islam to deny something you know is a problem. That's a lot of people do that. If they can quote you, usually a hadith, they can quote you something that they said the prophet said to justify a behavior, and they know that behavior is holding them back. And even you say that hadith, it don't change the fact that that behavior is a problem for you,
Yes.
right? And you see that a lot, brother. I mean, the thing is, and what we have to do is we have to work hard to get people to understand is that religion is not to be magic to help you. You throw out a few magical terms and your problem go away. No, your problem will go away. You got to deal with them. You got to face them. If you don't
Yes.
face your problems, they only get bigger. And there are too many communities around the country where people living in this Islamic denialism. There was somebody else is to blame, not them. They don't see the man in the mirror.
Well, that's a misuse of the religion.
Absolutely.
It's using the religion as a tool, and there's consequence. People have to understand that when we misuse something, there's consequences. When we use something,
Can I interject some on that? We
yes,
have to really understand accountability.
yes,
But people don't realize that they're not accountable to you and to me. They're accountable to God. See, if you don't fear that, there's nothing that you can do or I can do to make them do what they're supposed to do. People have to realize that as people of faith, whether you're Muslim, Christian, Jew, whatever, there's a day of accountability. You will be held accountable for what you do. So you should be mindful of what you do. Now, if you're a person who ignores that, you don't believe that, then you got your own set of problems because there is a day of accountability. Scripture
yes,
throughout points that out. And and
yes,
and, and if a person don't fear the consequences of their behavior, like I said, they don't fear the fire, then what you gonna do?
yeah,
You got best thing you do is just stay away from that person because here's a person who he knows he's doing wrong, but he thinks there are no consequences. That's bad. That's really sick. That you think that you don't believe in in the basic laws of nature. You know what I mean? For every action, there's equal and opposite reaction. That's basic. That's not no heavy scientific concept. If they're the east or
yes.
the west, it's always the opposite.
Something like
I mean, if you're a person who ignores the consequences of your behavior, thinking that, well, no, you will be called account. You will be
yeah,
called to account.
yeah. The
And this one
the
is one of the things that the Quran is very strong on. It's very strong in reminding the human being that you will be called to account. There is a day of judgment, a day of accountability.
yes,
You will be called to account.
yes, sir.
Yeah, and that's and see, and that type of reminder starts at a very young age. You remind your children that they don't be good because mommy and daddy's around. Be good because you know Allah and His angels they always see you. And children, I find that in households where people have that sense of accountability, they tend to be more sensitive to how they act in public and how they act in private. Because if you act one way in the masses, I think I told you this before. I had people tell me how their parents were. Children tell me, in fact, how their parents were transformers, and that
Right.
they act one way in the masjid, and another way when they got home. I said, oh, okay, well, it's, yeah, yeah, man. My mom and dad are transformers. I said, what? Yeah, because children tell on you. They tell all your business.
That's right.
Hold the be like. But that's something we got to be careful of because something that I think a lot about, brother Michael, is that how will how are children going to see us years from now? If what we try to do, how are they going to remember us? You figure in the next 50 years or so, there'll be a whole nother group of children, people who will be doing, they will be out here doing what we're doing now. Answer the
Yeah.
question: how will they see us? How will they speak of us? All right.
Well, it's important. Allah tells us that the believers have to remind one another,
Yes.
and we want and we pray for the victory
Mm-hmm.
of the believing men, women, and children.
Mm-hmm.
And the children have to see clearly uh, that they are growing into their responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
That the way life operates,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to be around
No
it a
replace
lot
us.
longer than we will.
Yes, right.
And so,
Yeah. Yeah.
and there's a saying in the religion of Prophet Muhammad says that your bloodline is not going to advance you if your deeds are not
Mm-hmm.
compatible with those who you're coming behind.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just because you Imam Abdul Alim's son or daughter doesn't mean that
That's
you got
right.
to pass.
That's right.
If
Each person, I think this is previous scripture. Each one got to stand on their own. Each tub got to stand on its own
Yeah,
bottom.
every tub got to stand on its
If
own
they, so
bottom.
that tells you that everyone are going to be held accountable for what he or she does.
Yes,
And I just think about how I'm excited about when I think about the future of Islam here in America because to see how far we've come.
yes, sir.
All right, see how far we've come. I just want
It's
to
a
share.
mod, it's a modern day miracle.
Oh, brother, I'll tell you, brother. Let me tell you a little story on that. Come tomorrow, the city of Philadelphia, in the heart of City Hall, there's a big courtyard. They're having a Juma sponsored by the city. The city is sponsoring the Juma, the citywide Juma.
Yes,
Right now, this is the same city that where Muslims were considered criminals 50 years ago. Here we are, a little more than 50, about 52 years now. Uh, now they're having a Juma, and the weekend is called Philly Muslim Connect. They're having a big vendors mall there on Friday evening and Saturday. And I see this. I said, I was telling some of the young brothers, I said, look, y'all are starting from third base. You got to be able to score a point. You
yeah,
got to be able to score something now. I said, we started out, man. We we wasn't even in the batter's box.
behind the dugout.
It was behind the dugout.
Yeah,
I
man.
said, all you got to do now is look. If he swing and hit a ball a little bit into the center, we can run. You run home and score.
Yeah,
I said, look, I'm telling you. And I said, I tell you something, brother. What we used to do, it shows you the wisdom of the Imam. Years ago, uh, the Imam said we got to establish our American identity. So we used to have Juma down at Independence Mall. You know where they signed the Constitution. Or you just got finished talking about.
hmm,
And some of the Muslims, oh, astaghfirullah, didn't they? But they came at us right, left and right. See, they didn't follow the direction language of the Imam. But
right.
but my thing was, I didn't blame them because they wasn't following anyway. The ones I blame were the ones who say they were, but were afraid to stand on it. See, the difference is this: if you say you with somebody be with them.
That's right.
If somebody's against me, I don't look. You have the right to not support what I'm doing. You didn't support it anyway.
Yeah.
So here we were. We so for like 25, maybe almost 30 since 1995. We had the Juma at Independence, but first there were only a few people. First year. But what we found out with this, brother, is that in most of the big cities, there are more people in the street than are in the massages.
Yes.
So what happened was, once they found out about it, the key was the advertise that we found out. That Juma became one of the biggest Jumas. And remember now, Independence Mall, you got tourists coming all over the world.
Yeah.
Coming taking pictures of African American Muslims praying Independence Mall. So now that event had now birthed Juma at City Hall. And we have a thing called it's called the International, what it's called, International Islamic Festival. We got all kind of flack for that. For another, it's all these things were all tied together. Our thing was that based on what the Imam had shared with us, he said, look, present Islam as a universal religion. Don't just have it in the African American neighborhoods. Present it
Not black.
in a universality. So
Yes.
now it's another. This is an event now that the city and all of the big businesses, the electric company, the gas company, big businesses, they sponsor these festivals down at that place called Penn's Landing. And you know who's one of the main events now? International Islamic Heritage Festival. Praise be to Allah. But it took us about
Yes.
20 something years, maybe well, this side, maybe a little longer than that now. To think about it, And but the point is, I, 2 points I want to make by sharing that with our audience. Number one, if you say you are a student of Imam Muhammad's commentary and his directional language, go forward with that and don't seek the approval of those who say they don't accept that. They have the right to not go the same way you're going, but you make yourself look small if you're trying to do what they want you to do, knowing that you got directional language from the Imam. Be strong with that. And you'll
Yeah.
find that in time, by Allah's
Yes.
grace, more and more people will see the wisdom of that. Because now we have the
That's
prayer
right.
on Friday, we will have a parade on Saturday morning, and we have a festival Saturday evening. That's how the Imam talked about what a new Patriots Day parade. Remember that?
And you have a strong relationship with government.
Well, but I'm saying that
The
wasn't always the
local
case. That wasn't always the
No,
case.
but my point is that sticking with the language brought
Sticking
that
with the
about.
language brings that about. That's right. You're 100% right. Stick with the language, and you'll find that right-minded people in government and religion and business, everything will say, I can work with these people. These people are not seen
Yes.
as a threat to the well-being of society. Let's work with them.
But they see us as an asset
That's right.
to better city life.
I'm tell you something. We have had the opportunity to meet with, and that we've had two popes come to the city. One in 1976, and one in just recently, Pope Francis. I think it was oh boy, and it's something in 2020. I think it was 2010. I'm pretty sure 2010. Anyway, in both cases, we were invited to be on the dais with the Pope, right?
Mm.
On the first one, we was on the far end of the dais. On the last time, they had us sitting right next to him. He holding our hand like we like we a good friend. Yeah.
Wonderful.
I mean, that's
Wonderful.
my point though, is that not
Yeah.
the point is show stick with the directional language of the imam. And some of the imam told me we was in Saudi Arabia. He said the imam told me, he told me personally, he said, Imam Alim, we had to leave what my father said to get what he said. Money, good homes, and friendships in all walks of life. And that exactly what has been happening. Money, good on the friend. Now we have friends in all avenues of religion, government, business, whatever. But we had to leave the old language, the white man, the devil, the black man, God. We had to leave all that
Yes.
and bring about the universal language of the Quran, and then we got what was promised by the old language. Ain't that something?
Yeah.
Allahu
Yes, it
Akbar. I
is.
tell you, bro, that's really,
Yes, it is. Yes.
you know what I mean? But I
Yes.
tell you, man, I tell some of the young brothers, I say, look, now we'll pass this on to y'all. What are you gonna be doing in 50 years? What are you gonna be doing? And and they look at me like, I said, look, you guys look all kind of
Yes, sir.
opportunities now. Look, I mean, I'm telling you, brother, look,
You got more to work with.
they got
You got
so
much
much
more
more
to
to
work
work
with.
with. Opportunity, opportunity, opportunity. But you gotta stick with and have faith in what Allah has given you as a leader. But see, I think that what has happened, brother, I think that just as Abraham said, show us how to raise the dead. We didn't know how to raise the dead. Imam Muhammad showed us how to do it and have faith in the process of it being done. Because it doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. And you got to be willing to, as I always say, you hear me say this a lot, stop being the sage on the stage and accept being the guide on the side.
Praise be to God.
The
Yeah.
guide the young people, you know what I mean, especially while we still got our right minds,
Yes, sir.
right? That's one thing. The other thing is, this is critical. Be more interested in the results rather than the credit. See, some
That
people,
is something that is foundational.
yes, but I mean, because some people they want you to give them recognition. I said, no, no, no. Let's get the job done. Whoever gets the credit, we say praise belongs to Allah, right? Mean that.
Yes.
Mean that. Don't be
Yes.
saying and waiting for somebody to give you applause, right? The credit belongs to Allah. The praise belongs to Allah. If you keep that
Yes.
spirit, you'll see a change. You'll see a change in the whole society because you won't be juggling to try to convince people. You'll be just trying to please your Lord. And the evidence
Yes.
will be, we'll say the proof is in the pudding.
Uh-huh.
The proof is in the pudding. And I think that if more of our leaders would number one realize that you can sometimes be more effective as a leader being a Khalifa, leading from the rear rather than leading out front.
Yes, sir.
And sometimes people they
Yes,
don't
sir.
don't feel you got to be always be out front. And you get to a certain
Yeah,
age,
there.
and you get to a certain
Yes.
age, be willing to step aside, pass the baton. Okay, it's your leg of the race you got to run now. I ran my leg. Now I need for you to run your leg of the race. So,
Uh,
brother,
un,
the sun
un,
is
under,
going over.
understanding,
Go ahead, keep talking. I get turned
under,
back now.
yes, sir.
Sun.
Understanding how important, being sincere.
Yeah,
Sincerity is so important to the success of any person. Uh, this is what the Quran tells us, the need for sincerity.
yeah,
You know, we have to have the right sensitivities. We have to have the right heart. Our heart's got to be right.
right. So
You
that your heart
know,
be at peace. I
you,
end
you
that.
know. Uh, we're told about the actual connecting with the Quran that none can do it but the sincere. You
Yes.
know, you don't really you don't really have the utility of the Holy Quran, the life of Prophet Muhammad, how he applied it, until you have the right heart.
Hmm.
And I'm really seeing how we have to emphasize that with one another, uh, and encourage one another, you know, and that encouragement will be in reading the Quran, so that Allah can, with the words of His guidance, help uh, help our hearts
Yes.
to 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 become healthier. You know,
Hmm.
we
Yeah.
need healthy sensitivities in order to get
Yes.
this
Yes.
work done.
Yes. Absolutely.
It's not an intellectual pursuit.
No. Well, no,
alone.
you got to have the reconciliation of both. But what I'm
Yes.
saying is, though, is that uh, the key to all that I find is that you got to approach the Quran with this understanding that it is the Word of God.
Mm.
See, if you approach it like it's just any other book, you know, that's something I see this a lot during the Ramadan. You go to certain places and listen to the brother recite so fast. He's
I don't
blurring
like that.
through it. I mean, no,
I don't like it.
and I know that the Quran in the early revelation, Allah tells us to recite the Quran with slow,
Yes.
rhythmic, all right, so slow, tartil.
Yes.
And I'm finding that as I get older and I recite the Quran slowly, it sticks with me better. You know, my granddaughter, she's getting real good at reciting. She's almost, I think this memorial that they have a ceremony where she got like maybe one more juice before she becomes a hafiz. But
That's
she was explaining
wonderful.
me about tajweed.
Hmm.
Because so I was trying to recite a surah. He said, "No, Papa, you got to say the right tajweed. You got to, you got to imagine the little girl. She's telling me, and I submitted because she was right.
Yeah.
But my point though was that spirit to recite the Quran in the proper way and want you to do it right too is a beautiful thing to see.
Yes, sir.
I mean, it's like she recites it, it's like and to hear the little voice, and it's making the right enunciation. And that's what you want to see, and you want to see that type of growth in our community, a love for the Quran and its
Yes.
applications, not
Yes.
just reciting the Quran,
No.
but looking how to apply it to different life situations.
Yes.
And I tell you, man, it's a beautiful thing to see and hear that. That's why
Yes, sir.
I was telling some of the brothers how the imam they'll tell look, sometimes when you give a khutbah, just take one word. Don't try to take. Some brothers they got long khutbahs with a lot of Arabic. I said, people they can't follow that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Take an ayah. No, I said take a phrase, or better yet, take a word and spend as much time as you can explaining that word because it's from God. God chose that word.
Yes.
That should tell you something. So show
Yes.
respect for that.
And we have to be able to avoid this spirit of what do you call it? Performative
Yeah, but
action.
performative. No, you want to take your time and say it and let it resonate in your mind and in your heart, and then look for evidence in the creation that supports that idea. So you can see the choice of words that Allah makes is very very important,
Yes.
extremely important.
Yes.
Imam Muhammad says that so much of what is in the Quran comes to help you understand previous revelation. So I said, praise be to Allah. But I'm just thankful to Allah to see more and more of our young people balance their life with Quranic studies and also academic studies. You gotta balance them both. You can't just be a good reciter of the Quran, but you don't have no job skills
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
the job you have is reciting during Ramadan.
Hmm.
You got to have a skill beyond that. Allah does not. The Prophet is saying they give the example of people come to the Prophet telling how great this guy was. He said, "Who take care of his needs?" He said, "We do
Yes.
better than him."
Yeah. And the what's called the dunya is a challenge for us to establish ourselves in.
That's right. That's
And
right. The dunya is struggle.
yes.
The struggle to you to establish yourself for your place in the paradise is the dunya.
Yeah.
You don't get the great reward of the paradise without establishing yourself within the dunya.
Yeah. That's important for us to connect with.
And I tell you, for us, opportunity. Remember something that the Imam said once, I think that it was Imam Kasabak, maybe Allah forgive him granted praise. He was asked the Imam, he asked the Imam the Quran. He said, is the Quran, uh, uh, how do you put it? Is the Quran meant for us to recite uh, the Imam told Qasim this. They said that we are people. That's how it was. That's where it was. We are people who have been born to carry the message of the Quran. That's what it was. To carry the message of the Quran, not
Yeah,
just recite it.
yeah.
And I
And
thought that was very
it's
important.
it's important to 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 really see how Imam Muhammad was modeling.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
he was modeling for us
Hmm.
the connection.
Yes,
Uh,
absolutely.
uh, there's an issue now in terms of this morning we were on AM 360
Hmm.
and we're hearing language as though we don't have we don't have a plan. Well, as I understood what Imam Muhammad, he gave us a big picture. He
Hmm.
also interjected particular uh, direction for us,
Hmm.
and he stated clearly, okay, now I've shown you the big picture. It's up to you resourceful men and women
Right.
to put together the application of that in terms of the strategic movement, in terms of the development.
Hmm.
Uh, and I think, I don't know, maybe the job is too big. And in fact, I know the job is too big if we don't have Allah's help, if we're not asking
Absolutely. But,
Allah to help us.
let me just inject something. Uh, when we were given the assignment to build, start a new community here in Philadelphia, that would be independent of the Philadelphia Master number Temple 12, Mosque 12.
Yes,
Uh, the Imam, firstly, we had to have a certain number. We had to have 40 families. In fact, if you go on YouTube and I'm explaining what we had to do, we went from nothing, nobody, to where we are now. But the plan is there. You have to have the sensitivity to know it's almost like it's like it's not like it's like do X then do Y then do no, it's not that type of plan. The plan is the general plan is you want to establish a community life. That's a general plan.
yes,
Now here we had nothing. In fact, we were sitting in the brother's house at his dinner table, and the people we started out with, many of them had kind of dropped away. All right, but we knew that in order to get from where we were and have nothing, we had to have people first of all committed to develop a place of worship that would be for Allah. We call it mukhlisin lahu, pure and exclusively for Allah. So we went from that. All right, that's the motivation. See, you have to have correct motivation. See, we're looking at things from the business world. Got to have a business plan. Now, you got to first have right-minded people, and those right-minded people are gonna listen. Go back, listen to what the man has said on different topics, like the one we just got finished talking about. The ayat
yeah,
did. All right,
yeah,
we talk about the four birds. All right, and you've heard me say this many times. I contend with anybody that that first bird has to be religion, not
yeah,
culture. You can't have no culture if you don't know the religion. But anyway, that's just my and we're allowed to have our own opinions on this. So our first thing was we used to have classes. We used to teach people right in the brother's house. We used to have classes. You know what I mean? There's no God but Allah. They on taught. I call it the Tawhidian principles necessary for establishing community. No God but Allah. No God but Allah. Listen, no God but Allah. Once you got that in people's mind, and they see and sincere about that, we went about renting a location so we could start having meetings and invite the general public. All right. So as we did that for a few years, we got together and we several brothers and myself we put up our houses for collateral to get a loan from the bank to purchase a building. All right. And from there we began to build. Number one, not only do you build the individual, you got to now build strong families
yes,
because the family life is what's going to hold the community life up. So here we got family life. So now in family life, you got to focus in on the children, not the adults. See, too many massages. They have all kind of programs for adults, banquets, this and that, but nothing for the children really. So I think what we started with, they call them a dresser, a
Oh,
Sunday school
yeah,
really, amount to Sunday school,
yeah,
and
yes,
teaching these children the love of Allah, the love of the messenger, the love of this work. All right. And it just doesn't happen overnight, but you're establishing uh, 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 the concept of Tawheed, the education, right? Right, and special education in Islamic concepts. Uh, then you hold on to that until you can attract, again, it's the type people you attract. Are you attracting people who just want to give you a lot of lip service, or they want to see something meaningful established? So within, it took us about 30 years. This is not a marathon work, brother. All right. We went from nothing in less than, well, maybe a little more than 30 years. We now, by law, we've got a whole campus, masjid, school, and even our school, no. We started with a daycare. Why? Because we want to build the human being up,
yes,
right?
yes,
We have another area now. Now this what I'm saying here. I'm gonna give you the short version because it doesn't mean that you don't have struggles, difference of opinion, different. That's all. That's all part of life. You're gonna have that, right? You're gonna have people.
that's
Some
right,
people who want to, they don't want to have things that's for the whole community. Have programs for the children in the neighborhood, after school programs, everything like that. You have to have in your planning, you're planning for the whole neighborhood, not just for Muslims. All right. And as you're doing these things, you're winning friends and influencing people. All right. And as you grow, you constantly letting the believers see that their opinion matters. We used to meet every Saturday morning at 6 o'clock, and we had maybe had 70, 80 people there in the meeting, brothers and sisters, everybody giving their opinion as to what could be done. It wasn't like one or two people sitting back in the room, thinking about everything. No, it was resourceful people. Leadership is in what? The resourceful people.
yes,
Because in this work, everybody got something to contribute, even to the person who was sweeping the floor. All right. Now, where we're at now, and we still, this is a multi-generational work too. Much of what we're doing, we're not gonna. I just give this parable. You ever heard this African parable? The man who plants a tree that he'll never sit under, never eat from its fruit, is understanding the meaning of life. You've heard that expression before,
yes, sir. You've
right?
mentioned it.
All right, and that's what I keep reminding people. That's what we not gonna the fruit we're planting. We're not gonna eat this fruit. All right. We have children who were born like the imam, our current imam. He was born and raised up in the community. Now he's the imam.
Yes, sir.
All right. And he has his own way of doing things. All right. And I say again, my thing, I said, look, no, we're just guide on the side. We can't tell them what to do because they are producing a future they got to live, not us.
That's right.
All right. Let's be clear because
It's a world we won't see.
we won't see it. And let's have enough faith that he's gonna, that they're gonna do what Allah touched their heart to do. All right. And so what happened though is that you have to know that this work is a multi-generational work. And what's going to happen is that when it's your time, you on the stage, you perform to your best. When it's your time, your show is over. Are you from? Have you ever been to New York for the
Yes, sir.
talent show, the Apollo? You know
No,
how?
sir.
Okay, once
I've
you're
seen it.
okay, well, once you're on stage, you perform. But this is when
Yeah,
they tell you time to get off, because they'll take you off.
that's right.
Right, that's the same way with us.
Yeah,
See, some of us have been on the stage too long. We don't know when to get off. Just calling me.
or the regret that when we had our time, We
Yeah,
had
yeah.
missed
When you
opportunity.
miss now, it's gone now. You done missed that boat done left the docks. Yeah, but thing is, see, but the mission is bigger than the man.
That's right.
You got to believe that.
That's
Because if
right.
that was the case, once the man passed, we'd have passed.
Yeah.
Right. We was, oh, the man was dead. Let me get in the grave with him. No. So it's that type of understanding that, that if we're gonna establish, we're gonna raise the dead using the four birds, then what we got to do in our time. Sometimes I told people sometimes all we can do in our time is lay the foundation, but make sure that foundation is solid that they can build on it.
I have found the advice of the imam uh, we all can participate in. He said the people need to see what a true human being looks like.
Hmm.
Now, Al Islam,
We
the
will never
history
call
of it,
to ask you to transfer money or provide security codes to resolve fraud.
okay, alhamdulillah. So Al Islam has a history
Hmm.
of the neighbors and people that do business watching Muslims and how they transact business, how they deal with issues, how they deal with the good times and the bad times. In
Hmm.
fact, people are watching this right now from over in Gaza, how the Muslims who are being slaughtered,
How they
how
still
they're dealing
maintain.
with that
Yes,
that
yes.
that oppressive
Hmm.
situation. And it's attracting people to study the religion.
Hmm.
How can these people have such faith in the midst of all of this slaughter? You
Right.
know? So that at a minimum is what we can do, but it's so important for us to exercise the best human life under Al Islam that we can exercise.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Well, see what is now. Now that holds true in all cases, however, but in the cities where Islam has been here for a long time, people
Yes,
expect more. They expect a
yes.
little more by now because they figure that look that we've had Islam long enough now to have worked out a lot of the kinks in our understanding, right? And if not all of us, some of us, see another thing, see we waiting on the whole crowd. Everybody,
No, 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 no.
you take those who are ready and you go forward.
Yes,
All right, that's the key. Sometimes we wait for the whole everybody got to be ready. Everything got to be just right. No, you go forward with whoever and whatever you got, and Allah will send you the help you need.
that's right.
When everybody to agree, no, it's not going to work. In like in the big cities, I think that the mayor's office told us that the Muslim now represent about 300,000
Hmm.
in population.
Yes,
All right, but now we go back to look. That's gonna be a problem. Why? Because to have that type of development, that type of growth, excuse me, that type of growth without development becomes a cancer because we're not developing the institutions, especially like because the large portion of that number is those who are under 25. Where are the institutions, the schools, and the other things for these young people to be? All right, so that's why we have to up our game because not only are we looking at numbers now, we got to look at development. All right, not on how many attend Juma. In fact, they asking the Muslims to come and hold Juma in some of the high schools because it's too costly in terms of security to have children leave school at say 1 o'clock and come back at 2:30. So when you see that, you say to yourself, well, we have to move away from just growth without development. That's why the whole thing of education becomes priority number one. Because we got a growing number of Muslims, but we haven't really developed the educational institutions to properly educate them, and that's a challenge. It's a challenge,
and
and you got to have a strategy for that.
yes, and we've been given the advice to pray to Allah for what we need and then actively go get it.
Have to go get it.
You
That's
know,
right.
what is the origin of a school or education is a teacher and a student.
Yeah.
You know, so and then what does the student need? And then how do we get? I've been studying this or really meditating or reflecting on this idea
Hmm.
of how Prophet Muhammad was searching for answers, and he had to find an environment. He found an environment where he could get away from the clutter
Hmm.
of the challenges of the ignorant environment that he lived in.
Hmm.
So he took refuge in the cave.
Hmm.
And I've been looking at this process that Allah took him through
Hmm.
in terms of his receiving the first revelation
Hmm.
as a model in terms of how the Creator has given us the educational process. The educational process is to bring out of us, you know, our sensitivities affected in a way, in the language of the event of the prophet's first revelation, he was squeezed 3 times.
Hmm.
You know, his sensitivities were touched in that way. And he said, you know, I'm not able to read. But upon the third time, he was able to recite what was not being put into him, but it was being brought out of him, as I
Hmm.
understand it,
Yeah.
you know.
Correct. That's correct.
And so, again, going back to your language, directional language, Allah intends to bring out of the darkness, the oppressive darkness that we find ourselves in, uh, not knowing, bringing us into consciousness, enlightenment, awareness.
Hmm.
So I've been reflecting on these things
That's good. That's good
for a
reflection.
number.
Because that brings us to this question then. Where are
Thank
we
you
at?
there.
Where are we at in that process?
Yes,
Now I see somebody's raising their hand.
I'm looking at it. Bilal, just hold on.
In fact, it's almost time for we can just open up for some questions and answers.
Okay, if you want to do that, Bilal, you're the first. Welcome to
Yes,
Not
yes,
Just Talk.
yes. Alhamdulillah. Brother
Assalamu
Muhammad,
alaikum. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Aleen,
Assalamu
assalamu
alaikum.
alaikum to you. Look, I want to tell you, you gave me the advice on that book, Muhammad. I told the brother because I had sent him so much of it, and I told him about it. Name Abdul Aziz out of New York. And I know a very scholarly brother, a worker. And I told him, I said, but look, brother, I told him what occurred with me and you. So a few minutes after that, he said, yeah, bro. He said, you are that we know how to just don't go about taking advice from anybody. So I know he got it. I said, but no. I said, your book, I know you're going to handle it, But this is what I came up with. I had to come up with something. Because I can't leave Prophet Muhammad alone.
That's
So
good, bro.
I'm a poet. So this is something I wrote. But let me tell you, I took it out of a book. His brother told me, he said, but now you can do what you want with it. His brother named Mutar Muhammad. He the one the one on AMT6 who got the program.
Yes.
When he was passing, he groomed Mutar. And Mutar wrote this book, African Genesis, something like that. Okay,
Yes.
so this coming out of his book.
Leadership. Yes.
Okay, and this is a poem. This is a poem I wrote. After I see the way he was taking it, he was taking Prophet Muhammad the way I wanted to be any man Muhammad in the community. And so I'm going through the whole book, inshallah. So this is a poem I wrote out the book. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, you have indeed an apostle of God, a beautiful pattern of conduct. For any who hope is in God in the final day and who engage much in the praise of God. Revelation is also what we were taught. In studying history, we sometimes forget to look at the whole picture, Quran and Sunnah, and have your mind perception for the best future. That's the end, but this is the beginning of it. The prophet's success as a leader and governor, staying as a model for all people, emulating his example and knowing his leadership will help us be more responsible. It's extremely important for us to complement Quranic study with the study of the prophet and his companions in the history of our religion. For progressive success, we must have sincere determination to implement change and sustain the implementation. We should look for a pattern. The prophet is the best example of leadership, management, and organization. He had to be an excellent organizer and manager of time and resources to meet the demand of being Allah's final prophet. Studying his life is how we benefit. He demonstrated superlative capability in his public and private obligations as a husband to his wife, a father to his children, a governor to his state, a diplomat to other nations, a commander to his army, an educator to his people. To his allies, he was a companion. He was an architect of culture and refined civility. Allah says that our prophet was sent as a mercy. Remember, so are we. Let's continue giving others what they need. Oh Allah, please help us to establish people. I mean, this is how I'm doing this now. And I'm finding, and if I listen to you, I say, thank you, Allah. You understand? If I want to listen to you and just went on, you see what I'm saying? I probably wouldn't have got this. You see, because I'd have went on just, oh, that brother, I ain't working for right and doing what I was doing.
Baby, did you do what you want, brother? If you sincerely look for something and you get the guidance that someone will help you along the way, because
that's right.
You trying to help other people. You're not just doing it you're not doing it for no ego trip. You're trying to help people.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's a blessing.
Thank you, Bilal.
Alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you. Sister Mira been trying to come on too for the longest.
We got it.
Okay.
Muhammad Sharif, welcome.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Come on in.
Yeah, I was just looking at during the first experience, we got a lot of good and we got some bad out of that. And speaking on the bad of it, a lot of people lost their possessions, they lost their material gains, a lot of lost their families. There was a lot of loss that went on during that first experience too.
Yes.
Yeah. So that would.
But remember now, actions are judged by intention.
Right.
Allah rewards your intention.
That's right.
If you intended good, and your intention was not to harm anybody, Allah is most merciful. Most merciful. I found, in fact, on these programs, on these different platforms, I met a lot of believers who were searching for certain answers, and praise be to Allah, on these programs, they've gotten answers that they've been searching for 50 years or more.
Yeah,
Not only them, but their children. So, but action judged by intent. You know what I mean? And I tell you, I've tried to share some of these things in the past, but I would get shot down, man. It was like, people don't want to hear that. But they do want to hear it. They want to understand it. Their heart wasn't pleased. That's why a lot of people couldn't take full advantage of what the man was saying, because they still had some unanswered questions.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's like,
Imam was saying one of our biggest challenges is corruption.
That's right. That's right.
That went on, a lot of corruption went on in the first experience also.
All right, brother, add me.
Mm-hmm. That's one reason why the Imam dismantled the FOI and the MGT.
Yeah, brother, some of those, if we had time, we could do a whole program on the struggles we had fighting against the corruption, because it wasn't always, for example, I found out, for example, that sometimes the corruption be in ways you may not even think about. I had a situation where, more than one, by the way, where the person who was the cause of the corruption, the person may have gotten locked up, right? But the people who was his roadies was also taking care of the families of the ones who got locked up.
Mm.
So a lot of the families were mad at me because I exposed the corruption. I didn't know that those same brothers were taking care of the wife and the children on it. I said, but I said, but you can't build family life on corruption.
That's
No
right.
way.
But see, but in their minds, I was wrong for exposing that whole empire, so to speak. That's what he called himself.
Yeah.
So but alhamdulillah, I think the Lord blessed us because even though you know, brother, I tell you, man, it's like look at where we are now. It's a miracle. It was a miracle that the corruption was there, but wasn't as much killings as one would have thought. Actual murder wasn't that. Mm-hmm. The
Well,
praise to Allah.
some of that went on also.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, brother, here in Philly, I know it went on over here. Shoot, you ain't telling me nothing. I'm saying it wasn't as much as you think. It was
Yeah.
more people. People lived a lot off of a reputation.
Yeah. And the threat of violence.
The threat of violence, right? And I had to tell them. Man, I told you this by the time, brother Michael. I mean, some of these guys, man, they were so lightweight that they put a grape on the floor, jumped off a 10-story building, land on it. They wouldn't bust the grape.
Yeah.
Right.
But their image was like they were hardcore criminals. I ain't no criminals, man. Get out of here.
Yeah.
Well, and the key was make sure that those who were bringing the new order was doing it for the pleasure of Allah. Allah protects you. You got to
That's
believe
right.
that.
That's
You
right.
know, what I mean, when you see those examples in the Quran or in Scripture, Abraham in the fire and just different problems like that. You got to believe that if the situation, you're in a situation where you know your life is threatened, then and if Allah says it's not your time to go, you're not gonna
Yeah.
go.
That's
But if
right.
Allah says your time to go, then you do anyway.
Yeah.
You take that attitude, oh man, you crazy, you spooky. But
Yeah.
I'm all that, but I'm
I,
still
I,
alive,
I,
right?
I'll be on my post until Allah relieve me.
That's right, yeah. So that's why I say, the work. I was telling some of the young brothers, I said, man, the work from this point on, man, y'all gotta do now is build. I mean,
Yes.
you're not fighting the ghosts of the past.
That's right.
I mean, look, let's get busy now, man. You got opportunities that, what I mean, oh Allah. I find that some families who kept a balanced approach, their children and their grandchildren are doing quite well. So the problem is not the whole community; it was just some members in the community
Yes.
that were the source of the problem.
And the advancement of the progress is not going to be everybody. It's going to be a
That's right.
few
That's right. That's right.
that are what they call the standard bearers,
Standard barrels, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, I
it,
can
it,
tell you that.
it, it's so beautiful when we understand that these expressions from Allah and how he questions us, and how he lets us know that once or twice a year we're going to be tested.
Be tested. Well,
Not
keep in mind, what Allah says, you think you believe and not be tested. Allah asked that question in the Quran.
That's right.
And you know that. But He give you evidence of the eventual victory. Like I said, it may not be in your lifetime, but you see evidence in the future generation. And I was,
Yeah, I questioned Imam early in his leadership. He talked about the process of planting and harvesting
yes, yes.
as a picture of what we were involved in.
Mm-hmm.
And it got my attention, but I didn't understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I grew, I began to understand, the soul wants to see the results,
Mm-hmm.
but there is
It's a
a
process.
process. There's a
Process.
process that we have to go through.
Mm-hmm.
But Allah has made uh, beneficial or rewarding for each step of the process,
That's right. That's right. Yep.
you know? And so here we are. We have to have a foundation. We've made cliche out of the four birds, but the four birds represent a foundation
Mm-hmm.
of life that civilized life has to have the development of institutions
Mm-hmm,
that
mm-hmm,
support it. And so here we are putting forth our effort in having a healthy and productive foundation for that community life to be built upon
mm-hmm.
and sustained,
Well,
God willing.
well, I tell you, I used to always tell people, I said, we are the generation of the transition.
Yes, sir.
Let's make sure that transition is complete and that we have left no unresolved issues. So that as we transition, I'm talking about as we pass away now,
Yes.
the ones coming behind us won't have to undo something we did because we didn't do it the right way. Now they're going backwards. But if
Yeah.
everything is in place, they will build on a solid foundation.
Yes.
And I explained to them, for example, how in the Quran two terms are used for the idea of foundation. One's in Surah Taqwa. I mean, excuse me. One is in Surah Tawbah. The word it said Taqwa, the foundation built. A sisa is a Taqwa, is a foundation built on Taqwa. The other one is the foundation of the Kaaba, of the house.
Yes.
That's built on your language. All right, to make sure that your language is right, correct language. All right, and that is al qawaid. That's language now. So we got the right concept of God, but we got to have the right language to create the environment to carry that out. So that's where we at now.
Alhamdulillah.
I mean, it's two different foundations. It says, and the second one says, Abraham and Ishmael raised the foundation of the house.
Yes.
But the word there for foundation there is kawai, means the language, the structure of your language.
That's
And
interesting.
once you have taqwa, which is in Surah Tawbah, the ninth chapter, when you raise the foundation now, you're conscious that God is the ultimate reality of the language environment that you try to bring in.
Yes.
Because we're trying to, by His grace, build a house that is reflective of the purpose of the human being that He demands.
Yes, sir. Muhammad Sharif, anything else?
Yeah, I just want to mention schools. Who's teaching our grandchildren and great grandchildren Islam? Public school not going to teach them Islam.
No, see
The charter schools are not going to teach them Islam.
Brother Muhammad,
So
one thing I found out on that though. No, the schools are not gonna do that. This is where family life becomes critical. You should always have time set aside for family ta'leems, 15, 20 minutes around the dinner table. Because until such time as we get to the point where we have our schools, you are risking the development of your child, putting them in the hands of the public school. That's a big risk,
Yes.
very big risk. So what you do is
and
you
the charter schools too.
and what?
And it's charter schools, because a lot of
Oh
charter
yeah,
schools
right,
have
yeah,
popped up.
charter school, all those, any of those. See,
Yeah.
so if the child don't have a clear concept of self and what has to be done, all those schools become dangerous. In fact, the environment itself, even on the internet, if you're trying to do cyber schools, but you got to first give. It's like the ayah that says in Surah 4, ayah 1, it says, reverence Allah and the wounds that bore you. You've heard that chapter 4, verse 1.
Oh
Yes.
yes, yes.
All right. Okay. That word there, wound that bore you, it means the places that help develop you. All right. So what happened is that you have to make sure that the foundation of terms of character and moral development are established at home. Don't depend on anybody outside your home to teach your children correct moral values. Now you're asking for big trouble if you do it that way. If you send them out, because now they're sitting at home watching. They ain't even watching TV anymore. Now they on the internet. And man, oh man, they learn nudity before they learn modesty. They learn about all kind of deviant behaviors before they learn about balanced behavior. All right. So that don't ever abdicate your responsibility as a parent to the media, to any type of school other, you know, you first. All right. It's always to do that first.
Thank you,
Family
Muhammad.
life is that's why family life is so critical.
Thank you, Muhammad.
Yeah, and
Uh,
there's one thing I want to say on that. We got to have that foundation because we're educating our children, and a lot of our children they go outside of the community to get employment, all that. So, because we haven't provided anything, job and employment for them, and they go and take all our education and work for somebody else. So that's another problem. Got to work on the foundation too.
yes, sir. Thank you.
You're
Uh,
welcome.
the the work that we're involved in, and Allah tells us that He has given each and every one of us an assignment. That assignment we're to find. It's not one that He whispers to us or directs us. We are to find our assignment in serving the Creator's will and plan for His world and His people. The Creator uh, has told us that this is the aim and purpose for our life, to serve His will and plan for humanity, that whereby He needs no service, but the human family needs service. And so praise be to Allah. I see we've got Dr. Yusuf Malik Fredericks with us. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Frederick.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Welcome to Not Just Talk on AM 360
Thank
Zoom
you. It's great to
platform.
be here.
That's
Yes,
all right,
sir.
Dr. Frederick.
Muhammad Abdul Alim is our co-host, our revisiting uh, collaborator on this platform. And I asked him that if he had was he able to have a conversation with you from the weekend that you had in Philadelphia, and he told me he was unable to do so. But he keeps a low profile, Doctor Frederick, so it's easy to miss him. You know, he's not one that pushes himself forward, but when you make contact with him, it's a wonderful experience.
Doctor, I want to say that uh, I was real pleased with both Friday and Saturday. I was telling Imam Idris, he's my
Thank
successor.
you. Thank
He's
you.
my successor. And I told him, I said, him and both brother Jihad, I've known those young brothers for years. I watched them grow up. And I'll tell them how I was going to tell you myself on this program. I'm so pleased with what you are doing. And I'm sure you know that many people are first to be second. Your work is the first of this type, and there are a lot of people who are busy trying to critique it without the skill set to do it. No, I'm serious. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes, he does.
And you can always tell a
Yeah.
leader of something, he has the most knives in his back.
Yeah,
So,
Right.
but we are very, very pleased. In fact, I was telling Imam Idris today is that we want to try to have something in the fall, a big program. We used to have, let me share something with you. We used to have a thing at Mashallah called the Family Life Conference. And we would have
Mm,
different people come in and discuss, child rearing, of family, husband wife relationships, all kinds of stuff like this.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
as you probably seen this, I don't have to tell you, but you saw it already. There's always a movement that's trying to downplay professional help for Muslims.
Yes.
All right, we want to pretend like Islam is magic. You can throw a few alhamdulillahs, Allahu Akbar, and our problems are resolved. No, we got some serious problems
Yes.
as a people. All right, and so,
Yes.
and so we're talking today. We'll try to have something, inshallah. And if you're available, we set it up in the fall, either at the masjid or one of the universities. We have pretty good contact with both Temple and the community college. We want to have something where you can share because you know the problem that you have outlined in your book are problems that very, very, very critically has to be dealt with because if as our numbers in Philadelphia grows, the problem is also growing with it. We're talking about 300,000, and I would say the bulk of that number is people under the age of 25. All right,
Yes.
and they're carrying the trauma that you talk about in your book, and no amount of quoting hadiths, quote is going to help them solve. You got to these workshops that we see here that you outline here has to be carried out. We have to have a serious attack, so to speak, on the dysfunctional families life that we have in the Muslim community.
So
It's
let's
critical.
get into it.
Okay, so I just want to say that to him personally. Because
We have with us.
I told Imam Idris, I said I was really pleased with what y'all did, but I want to let him know that even though you may not see me, trust me, my support is there.
Yeah,
All right,
and he is Dr. Frederick, a guide on the side.
that's right.
Alhamdulillah.
I'm-
Dr. Yusuf
Well,
Malik
thank you
Frederick.
both for
Yes,
this
sir.
invitation.
Go ahead.
Thank you both for this invitation. It is indeed a pleasure to be here with you both and to be a part of this program. And I appreciate the invitation from Brother Michael Hamin and him getting in contact with me through Imam Rashad. And so I've talked with him a few times now,
Mhm,
and I went online to make
mhm,
sure that I understood the show
mhm,
and where I was coming to appear.
mhm.
I didn't want to just come
Yeah, me.
just off the rip and not really know what it is this forum does nor what it stands for. And Imam Abdul Alim, you are certainly a chameleon because I don't remember seeing you at all.
Mhm.
So, even though I am pretty good with faces, and but there were a lot of people there on
No,
Friday.
no, excuse me. No, I was not there.
Oh, okay.
I
I
was
thought
not
you were
there.
there.
No, no,
Oh,
no, I was not there. But I had them tape it.
Okay.
First of all, Friday you were on Brother Jihad's program,
Yes,
and
yes. I was
on
on his show.
Saturday, Sister
Yes.
Rahima, she should be on it sometime. She was recording it until you got to that sensitive subject, and you asked her to turn it off.
Try to turn it off. Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
but yes, but I've been following your lecture since you were down in Baltimore, and I
Okay.
suggested to them to have you come on. In fact, Rashad's another one of our students, and I suggested that. See, we need to bring. See, you. Let me say this. You were not getting a big enough platform. We felt because you were saying things from a scholarly position, which means that you've done your homework. But we also know you're going to get a lot of blowback from people who got a lot to say but have no research to back it up. So a lot of what you were doing, we tried to do this several years ago, and it's a lot of controversy. You talk with Jay, he'll tell you more about it. And so we heard you talking down in Baltimore. We said this type brother, we need to get up in Philly because he brings the scholarship that makes his opinions more than just opinion. He got data.
That's right.
I mean, anytime you tell me you interviewed the number of people you interviewed, that should say a lot to people. Let's stop all this We got things to say to challenge you, but without any documentation.
So let's get into it.
Let's get into it. I just want to say
Yes, so let me just take this segue
Mhm.
and again, thank you both, and let me just kind of level set the research. So, and it's important what you have said and the comments that you've made, and the reason it's important, Imam Alim, is because it gives some context for
Yes.
the research, and it also gives some context in a very practical way for what occurred in Philadelphia
Hmm.
in terms of the excitement
Hmm.
that this topic was able um, to bring about.
Yes.
And as you correctly said as well, Philadelphia is not the first city I've been to. I've
Hmm.
been to
Hmm.
several other cities,
Hmm.
as you cited, Baltimore
Hmm.
and other cities in New Jersey as well. But Philadelphia, for some reason, drew the most excitement
Hmm.
to date. What was interesting is that, and again, I'll reference your comments, um, is that people who want to criticize, I just smile at it. I mean, they just don't have the background to
Hmm.
be
Right.
able to level any criticism at this level of work.
Hmm.
I studied for my PhD degree in trauma psychology for over 5 years, almost 6 years. And the last 3 years, as in most PhD programs, I had to decide to write my dissertation.
Hmm.
And I had to decide what was my dissertation going to be about? What was the subject matter? And if you know anything about dissertations, dissertations don't just come about based on the student's whim or come about just based on the student saying, once upon a time, there was such and such. A dissertation topic is not some novel or some casual topic that you write about. Okay. It is peer reviewed by at least 3 to 5 other PhDs that are looking at it critically. And there are frameworks that you have to meet. There are theological theories that has to go into it. And most of all, there is empirical data that has to underline
Hmm.
the research.
Right.
The difference between research from a scholarly academic level and just writing a book or a novel is that research is replicable. Research has to be able to be reproduced by someone else at that level. Therefore, if another PhD in psychology decides that, hey, I want to look at this subject, and I want to look specifically at what Dr. Youssef looked at, and I want to see whether or not he did a good job in his research, then they can go back to my research, go back and look at my literature review, look at all of the sources that I reviewed. And just so that you know,
Mhm.
I had approximately, I had approximately very minimum 80 pages of references.
Mhm.
I'm talking about 8.5 by 11
Mhm.
pages that are filled of references. And so my literature review alone were, probably over 70 pages.
Mhm.
And someone has to say, okay, what I want to do is I'm going to look at all the literature he looked at. I'm going to look at all of the the studies he looked at. I'm going to use the same theoretical references. I'm going to use the same methodology. And my research was a combination of quantitative study, which is empirical, statistical, and it is also qualitative, which digs deep into the individual participant's experience. Most doctoral studies are qualitative. Most doctoral studies um, comes about as a result of an interview with about 12 different people on a particular subject. And they develop themes, they developed categories, they developed group experiences, and they combined all of those together. And they typically use a program that is called in vivo, that is a very analytical data collection program that collects all this data, synthesize the data, and give you an output of what this data actually says. So most PhD programs would be qualitative reviews in order to come about with a result. I knew that this topic would be very I don't want to use the term controversial, but would be an excitable topic. So I decided from the outset, against my committee, my research committee, against their advice and direction, because it would take twice as long. I decided to do a mixed method study, which means I decided to do a quantitative analysis and combine that with the qualitative analysis, which is two research projects in one.
Okay.
On the quantitative side, we use two surveys. We use the spiritual abuse and harm survey, which is a 30-item survey that was developed about 10 years ago, that was validated, that was proven reliable at a 92 to 93% rate of trustworthiness. This survey was developed with minority groups, meaning African American, Hispanic, etc. And so it was geared towards a minority population, and it achieved an alpha score of around 92, okay, out of 100. So it was robust, it was verifiable, it was reliable, and it was a trustworthy instrument. Each question was, each question had a particular score to it to show that it had what is called internal validity. In other words, that this question measured exactly what it was supposed to measure. So if the question asked, have you ever felt depressed? The way the question was asked and the order in which it was asked actually measured a person's state of depression. So it was internally valid. All of these questions, gentlemen, can be found at the back of the book. I included the instrument in the back of the book. So in the back of the book, the quantitative instrument is there. On the other hand, measuring racial trauma, that was like a 27 item survey that went through the same rigorous process of validation, trustworthiness, credibility, and those kinds of things. And that had like a 92 to 94% rating as well. So, and that is also in the back of the book. So we use those instruments and we anonymously and confidentially um, went about in geographic locations between New York and Los Angeles to conduct a survey among African American Muslim that were 18 years and older that were living in the United States that spoke English and that had taken the Shahada and considers themselves Muslim. 285 people, almost 300 individuals took that survey. They and just so that you know, all of these survey results must be kept. My university has all of the results because they are bound by the federal government and the HIPAA rules to keep this information confidential and to put it in a lockbox because this is human research. And I know both of you and probably your living audience attending tonight have heard about the Tuskegee experiment that was done many, many years ago against African Americans and with an African American population that
Yes.
tested for syphilis in Alabama. As a result of the Tuskegee experiment, research involving human subjects, research involving human participants, has to be done in a particular way. So when these critics unknowingly attempt to criticize my work, they really don't have they don't have a
Exactly.
clue.
We're giving them
They
too
don't
much air.
they
We're
don't
getting too much
they
air,
just don't
Doctor.
know what they're talking about.
We're
So
getting too much air.
this is like I say all the time, this is not a novel where you say once upon a time and you start writing or you writing things that are your opinions or how you feel or what side of the bed you woke up on. So the IRB, which is the Institutional Review Board, this research had to be approved by my North Central University Institutional Review Board. They looked at all of the questions, they looked at all of the participants, they looked at every document that a participant signed, any document that was involved, every question that was asked. I had to have a committee that was an expert panel because I was dealing with some form of psychology trauma. I had to have therapists, licensed therapists on call
Mm-hmm.
in case someone became triggered and one of the questions re-traumatized them or
Mm-hmm.
got a certain response from them. In my um, protocol, every participant understood that as they went through these 57 questions, they can stop at any time, they could quit at any time as they went through my personal interviews with them. Because not only did these almost 300 people do the survey, a certain segment of them did interviews with me
Mm-hmm.
for the qualitative portion of the research. And so we went through this process, and this process has to be preserved, as I said, based on the HIPAA laws and the laws of the federal government, which is encoded into the US statute code for doing research with human participants. They have all the documentation that is as a result of this research. The demographics were as follows. All of these people, the average age, and I heard one of you gentlemen, perhaps Imam Alim, quoted that the age group, at least in Philadelphia, is somewhere around 25.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
Muslims,
yeah,
I think
young
that's
people.
the number you called out
Mm,
earlier. All these participants, the average age was 31.
mm-hmm,
Okay. They were over the age of, between 18 and 100, but the average age was 31. The average education was at least fifth, over 70% had at least a college degree,
mm-hmm,
and at least 25 to 30% of them had a master's degree or better, meaning a PhD or a Juris Doctorate.
mm-hmm,
They made somewhere between 50,000 and high six figures,
mm-hmm,
you know. Um, um, so this was middle-aged, meaning 30 and above. This was a young, youthful,
mm-hmm,
educated
mm-hmm,
population.
mm-hmm,
Okay. 51% of them, um, Brother Hameen, were men, which it is really shocking
mm-hmm. Yeah,
because
women usually.
the men really weighed in and participated. I know I was shocked
Mm-hmm,
at that high percentage. 49% were women.
mm-hmm,
And another um, indication point was that 90% of them identified as Sunni Muslim.
mm-hmm,
Okay. You had a small percentage identified as Shia,
mm-hmm,
and a small percentage identify as Sufi
mm.
Muslims as well.
Okay.
There was no differentiation between the Warith Deen community or the Sunni community. All of them identified as Sunni
Mm-hmm,
Muslims. Okay.
mm-hmm,
Um, so those were the demographics. The results. The results of the research set out to answer the question whether or not spiritual abuse and racial trauma caused or impacted the mental health
mm-hmm,
of African American Muslims.
mm-hmm.
We had 4 questions that we sought to get answered in this research. Someone had said, well, I looked at the book and I went through it, and there was no Quran and Sunnah
Yeah, yeah.
quoted in the book. um, this is not a religious study.
Crazy.
This
You
is
know,
not. This
can I
is,
interject some on that, doctor?
yes,
See, is that that told you a lot about the individual's understanding of scholarly research, because even
correct.
when you read a lot of the scholars that people quote, if you're reading a scholar who's writing in my area, I teach physics. They're not going to
Okay.
quote a lot of scripture to prove certain scientific quantum theory. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
And,
yes,
and what sometimes people do is that goes back. I think you use the term weaponizing religion.
yes,
That's a
exactly.
big thing in some people's mind that they could throw a hadith on you or something to make you afraid.
Yes.
Think for yourself.
Yeah, well, that was the problem,
Yeah.
right? The
Yes.
the problem is some people are only used to reading certain kinds of material. And they convince themselves that this is the only type of material that is out there. They are
Right.
not prepared to read a book on quantum physics, or they are not prepared to read a book of anatomy and physiology,
Right.
or they're not prepared to read a book on science or psychology. And if they open that book and there's not a Quranic quote or a Hadith quote, they just surmise that this book is nonsense. And so that is basically um, where certain people came down at. But this was a psychology research. Okay,
Right.
my degree is in trauma psychology.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Even though I have a theological degree,
Mm-hmm.
my undergrad degree is in theology, and I also have a law degree, but I have a master's in psychology, and this book came out of the research
Mm-hmm.
of my PhD degree
It's at
in
least. Mhm.
psychology.
Let me ask you a
So,
question. Let me ask you a
uh,
question.
mhm.
Uh, in your research, did you look at family development based on
Yes, yes, absolutely. I mean, we looked at the impact of this phenomenon on the family. So,
Mm.
well, first of all, because time is going, let me just
Okay, go ahead.
um,
I'm sorry. It is
go
going.
a little faster.
All right.
So, spiritual abuse
Mhm.
is the misuse of spiritual authority
Mm.
in order to coerce, manipulate, mislead, or affect the behavior
Mhm.
of someone.
Mhm.
That's what spiritual abuse is.
Mhm.
Okay, is people misusing spiritual authority, either in our case as Muslims, the Quran and the Sunnah,
Mhm.
for a particular purpose to achieve a particular end.
Mhm.
And in my research, there was literature in my literature review with regards to how spiritual abuse, how this phenomenon
Mhm.
affected white evangelical Christians.
Mhm.
Because white evangelical Christians are all over the United States.
Mhm.
And these, what they call holy rollers,
Mhm.
and these fire and brimstone preachers, okay, how did that type of religious fervor,
Mhm.
how did that affect the mental health of white Christians
Mhm.
and their families? You know,
Mhm.
God is going to burn you in hell.
Mhm.
Jesus is going to roast you,
Mhm.
and you got to be on the right side, and all of that stuff that our grandparents used to use to scare us half to death
Mhm.
in order to get us to go the straight way.
Mhm.
So, looking through the literature, I saw that the majority of literature was on white Christianity and how cults like the Branch Davidians, or some of these Mormon sects, some of these
Yes.
cults have used manipulated scripture in
Mhm.
order to get a following.
Right.
There was nothing on Black people.
Mm.
There was nothing, there was no scholarly information regarding even, I saw maybe, I saw less than 1% of cases that dealt with African American Christians
Mm.
having this phenomenon
Mm.
affect them. Okay, that was the first thing. So I said, wow, there is a gap in the literature. And then I looked at the literature, continued to look at the literature, and of course, there is all kinds of literature on the effect of Islamophobia on the mental health of African American Muslims. There was a lot of literature on how racial trauma and racism and discrimination and being prejudiced, how that affected African American as a whole.
Yes.
But there was no literature on the combination
The
of
section, and that's what, okay.
the
Gotcha.
intersection
Mm-hmm.
of spiritual abuse and racial trauma. How did those two phenomenons intersect to affect the mental health of African American Muslims? And that is what my research
Yes.
was about. So when you look at the book, I Love Islam, but I'm tired of Muslims, continue reading, please.
Please,
Continue
please.
reading
Yes,
the
yes.
subtitle, because what the
Absolutely.
book
Yes.
is about
Yeah,
is about the subtitle.
well,
Yes,
It's
it
about
is.
I like
how
what you said,
spiritual
Doctor. You
abuse.
said people should
Yes.
read the whole title and stop majoring in the minors.
Stop
Yeah.
majoring
I
in the
really love it
minor.
when you said that.
Yeah. So it's about how did spiritual abuse and racial trauma intersect to cause psychological distress among African Americans. So that's what the book is about. So in order to answer that, in order to answer that question, we used four hypotheses. We used four research questions, four hypotheses. The first was, how does spiritual abuse intersect with psychological distress? That's the first thing. Then we asked the question and laid the hypothesis, how does racialized trauma intersect with psychological distress? Then the third question was, when you combine both of them, how does racial trauma moderate spiritual abuse to cause psychological distress? And then the fourth question is, how does the individual, how does spiritual abuse and racial trauma, how does that affect the meaning of life for the African American Muslim? Meaning, how does it affect how they view? How does it change their lived experience? How does it change the length and breadth of their spiritual experience? Okay, so we wanted to understand and explore people's lived experience. And that's why we had to do the qualitative part of this research. That's why we had to methodologically, and what they call a big word, phenomenological, we had to understand what was the phenomenological interpretation of this phenomenon on the individual psyche. That's a lot of big words strung together, but how does it affect the person in their lived experience and in their daily life? So this research answered those four questions. It investigated those questions and it answered those questions. The first answer, and then I'll stop and we can have a discussion. How does spiritual abuse affect the psychological distress or the mental health in African American Muslims? The statistics and the statistical analysis quantitatively, based on the two surveys that we talked about earlier, and when triangulated with the interviews that people gave, the result was that there was a substantial correlation between spiritual abuse and psychological distress. Substantial. Okay, not slight, not moderate, not a big, but substantial connection at a P level, and this is now the scientific part of this, at a P level of less than 0.001, which is a substantial effect in terms of the relationship between the two. Second question, how did racial trauma impact the psychological distress of African American Muslims? Again, substantial effect, not slight, not light, not heavy, but substantial effect. That's what the research showed. That's what the statistics show. That's what the evidence and the output of the research show. I didn't really expect this. I didn't expect these results. I figured that there would be some correlation, but not like substantial. Then the question, how did racial trauma, because I said to myself, in studying trauma, period, I knew that there was such a thing called epigenetics, meaning that there historically that trauma lives in the body and that the body keeps score and that there is a palpable relationship between our historic trauma as African Americans. There's a palpable relationship between that trauma and our mental health today. I mean, there's just hundreds of books on that. Okay. But when you layer spiritual abuse on top of that, and then you layer Islamophobia on top of that as African American Muslims, the instruments start becoming destabilized. In other words, the weight, Brother Hamin, was so heavy that it caused a phenomenon in research called multicollinearity. Multicollinearity is when two variables are so closely related that it destabilizes the research because it's almost as if one morphs into the other. This is how powerful this intersection of these two phenomenons, spiritual abuse and racial trauma, is to the African American psychological psyche, their mental health. It's destabilizing. And so when you look at families today, to your question, Imam Ali, when you look at the young people today, and let's take Philly, when you look at it today, and you see the crime statistics, who's committing these atrocious crimes, violent crimes, the murders, the stabbings, the this, the that. You see Muslims there. You see, the Rashads, the Halims, the Muhammads, you see them on the wanted posters. I'm not saying that Muslims commit the majority of crime. Please don't misunderstand.
Proportionally. But let me ask you a question. And now you had
Yes,
mentioned,
proportionately.
okay, now in a clip you gave down in Baltimore, you had mentioned how we have a multi-personality
Yes,
behind it. Could you elaborate on that?
yes. It's called identity fragmentation,
Okay, okay.
where young people and even older people are having an identity crisis between who they are.
Mm,
Am I African American? Am I a Muslim from the Arab perspective?
mm,
Am I still American?
mm,
What is my true identity? And so you have young men walking around and they are talking to you with an Arab accent and never left the country to go to Puerto Rico.
mm,
Okay? Because they identifying with a culture that is not their own.
mm,
Okay? Where they are wearing the thobes, they're wearing the headpieces that they see the Saudis wear.
mm,
They are in the sandals. They are wearing the izars that look like a skirt. But it is only because they feel like the more Arab they are, is the more Muslim they are.
mm,
And they don't like themselves, huh?
And they don't like themselves. They do not, they want to strip themselves of being black. They want to strip themselves of being American, and they are spiraling in an identity crisis. Psychologically, we call it identity fragmentation.
mm.
And so they want to be Muhammad, but they are real comfortable if you just call them Mumu.
Mm,
Okay. They are not sure
mm,
which bucket that they fit into. And to your question, whether or not my research, I looked at the family system
mm,
and the family structure. This plays out in a devastating way in the family home, in
mm,
a devastating way. When you take into consideration the whole concept of polygyny in Islam, and how we as African Americans um, implement polygyny, how we marry and divorce
mm,
from an Islamic perspective. The statistics of Islamic divorce among African American Muslims, you can't even quantify it
mm,
because of the way and the serial nature of how brothers and sisters divorce in our community, marry and divorce. The average person within the Sunni tradition in the African American community, the average young man has been married 6, 7 times. The average young lady has been married 2 to 3 times.
mm.
And I'm trying to be polite here.
Now, am I to understand it? This is all stemming from this intersection that you have.
Yes, yes, it's
All this is
stemming
just
from the
behavior
intersection.
that
It's
that.
stemming from the fact that when you have trauma and you have layered trauma, it makes the individual, it destabilizes you.
Mm-hmm,
You become unstable.
mm-hmm,
And instability leads to no discipline.
mm,
Okay, it leads to no discipline. And let me give you an example. And again, I'm very careful when I give these examples because people run with things and they don't quote me in context.
Yeah.
During the early stages of the Nation of Islam, okay, we are not talking about Akida here. We are not talking
I
about
got you.
creed. I was never a part of the nation. I'm not advancing that. For those of you who say it was shirk, I mean, that is my personal view, but I'm not even talking about that, right? But just as an organization and just as from a psychological perspective, when the Nation of Islam in its heyday, right, there the black family was intact.
Yes.
The black family was intact.
Mm-hmm.
The brother who was beating up his wife, he got a visit from some other brothers.
I mean.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
If she told anybody, whether it was the brother captain or
Lieutenant or whatever.
or it was the lieutenant or whoever,
Yeah.
that brother knew that there was going to be some consequences
I mean.
and some repercussions to his actions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Those sisters who were on the corner, they weren't Muslim yet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? The black men and women went and got them off the corner and, as they said, cleaned them up.
Yeah.
Cleaned them up and integrated them back into the family, back into the community.
Mm-hmm.
But this serial marrying, divorcing, I've got 4 wives and I'm divorcing them and I'm marrying a new 4. So now I've had 8 marriages and I'm just 25.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, those 8 marriages produce children.
Right.
Now, half of them children are orphans because the brother is not going back to get them. The sister is left with them kids to raise them kids.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you see the effect of the disintegration over the last 50 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
The disintegration, well, not 50, well, maybe 50. The disintegration of the family system and the destabilization, which is exactly what my research showed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The multicollinearity that occurred just destabilized the family.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not blaming Sunni creed and Sunni doctrine for that.
Oh, no, no.
I am simply saying that the layered nature of the trauma was a destabilizing force on the African American Muslim household.
Right.
That has resulted in the destabilization that we see every day with our own eyes in these inner cities.
Mm-hmm.
If we want to be honest, because let me tell you something. It's the same in Baltimore. It's the same in Jersey. It's the same in New York. And then when you add the Salafi Wahhabi methodology on top of some of that, it becomes more pernicious in terms of when you add a fundamentalist authoritarian view of the religion into this. Okay? Now we come to doctrinal weaponization, because when you have an authoritarian fundamentalist view, now the man is telling the wife, you cannot go out except with my permission, because Allah says, or the Prophet ﷺ says in a hadith that I am the head of the home, and that means that you have to listen to me, and you cannot make me mad at all, because if I go to sleep mad at you, then
Right.
the angels will be mad at you all night.
So
And
that's
then they quote hadiths that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw doing the Isra and the Miraj. He saw more women in hell than men. And when he asked Jibril alayhi salam, why is this situation? Jibril reportedly said to him, this is because the women were disobedient to their husbands.
Right. Yeah.
so that's the
That,
weaponization.
that is the doctrinal weaponization
Mm,
to exact a certain behavior
mm,
out of the woman and children,
mm-hmm,
and to put the man in a patriarchal, male dominated
mm-hmm,
household
mm-hmm.
where his word is interpreted as the word of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam,
Yeah.
and almost like the word of the Quran.
Yeah.
So that's a means of control.
It is
Absolutely.
a means of control. It is manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
It is doctrinal weaponization. It is doctrinal manipulation. It is spiritual coercion. There's even such a thing as reproductive abuse,
Mm,
where the woman says, I don't want to have any children right now. We just got married. Let us spend the first 5 years, enjoying ourselves. I am taking birth control. I don't want to have any children now. And the man says, well, I am obligated to make the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's ummah the biggest ummah that it can be, so that on the day of Yom Kiyama, Muhammad's Ummah sallallahu alaihi wasallam will be the biggest Ummah, bigger than Isa ibn Maryam and bigger than the Ummah of Musa. And so my contribution to that is to reproduce. And so you are going to have my babies.
mm-hmm.
We are
So
not going to have any birth control in the household. So you've got reproductive abuse,
Mm,
right?
so this is coming
And
out of coming out of a fixed mindset. The mindset is fixed in terms of how the religion is
yes, it's
is
coming.
presented.
Yes, it's coming out of a fundamentalist,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
authoritarian view of the religion, okay? And how that is interpreted and carried out and practiced. And so, what the research showed, at least qualitatively, is that there are three harmful effects.
Mm,
There is the doctrinal weaponization, there is the hermeneutical injustice or epistemic injustice, which is to say, the silencing
mm,
of women,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
where women are, rather than
mm-hmm,
uh,
mm-hmm,
being listened to and allowed to give their testimony and allowed to give their views, rather that they are silenced and their pain is misinterpreted as theology. So
mm.
a woman is fighting in the home with her husband. He is physically abusing her. He comes to Imam Alim. I'm just using this
Yeah, I
as an
got you. I got you.
example.
I know what you're gonna say. I know. Yeah.
he he
Look.
comes to she comes to Imam Alim and say, "Listen, I'm experiencing this domestic abuse." Imam Alim says, "Well, you have to be patient,
Mhm.
and because
Yeah,
this is a test from
that's
Allah."
true. Yeah, I've heard
And
that.
he quotes the Quran that says, "O you who believe, do you think you will believe without being tested?
Mhm,
Yea, we will be tested
mhm,
with our spouses, with our children, with our money, etc." And so he spiritualizes or theologizes away her legitimate feelings.
Right. She's hurting. Her eyes are blown up,
Right, right.
and
And
he
she's
spoke.
like, this felt like a punch in the face,
Right.
but you're telling me it's not a punch in the face,
Right.
but it is a trial from God,
Hmm.
right?
Institutionally, we also had the men affected inside the masjid and under this controlled manipulation of of
Yes,
of the Quranic and especially the Hadith verses. You know, it's its effect also is upon the men as well, who are trying to serve God's will and plan, and they're being told that it has to be seen through the leadership's eyes.
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And so the silencing of testimony
Yes,
is not one-sided to just women.
Right.
Right? It also applies to men as well.
Hmm.
So depending on what masjid you go to, the brothers will tell you you've got to wear your pant leg above the ankle.
you have to fall in line.
And if you don't wear that, then everything below the ankle is in the hellfire,
Hmm.
right? And so they legislate how you dress, how you look. You dare not go to Juma in what you have got on, Michael, or in what you have got on there, Imam Aline, with a
Amen.
Harvard hoodie on, or what I have on,
Right. I know.
because we have to
I
dress
got to
a
conform.
certain way. And so our self-expression and our experience with Allah, our own walk with God, is silenced because I am disallowed from serving my Lord within my own African American experience.
Hmm.
And you, because of how you see the deen, you delegitimize how I practice Islam.
Hmm.
So the help of your research to therapists in terms of uh, dealing with these issues of spiritual abuse and trauma, uh, the type of suggestions that you have for aiding the bringing to healthy stasis, in terms of the Muslim identity. Do we have aid and assistance to the therapists?
Yes, I mean, one of the things in the book, there are sections called implications.
Hmm.
Okay. When you look at when you look at um, um, when you look at part 3 of the book, and you go to, let me see, when you go to part 5, which is entitled Healing, Practice, and Policy, that leads into chapter 13,
Hmm.
that is entitled Implications. Okay. After implications, you have the clinical implications, 13.1. Then you have individual psychological and social implications. Okay. And so these are implications that affects both the therapist. In other words, this is how the results impact the therapist and what they can do, and through what lens they should now begin to look at their practice and um, their clients. And it also goes into how the imams should look at this, the leadership. Okay. It talks about that. And then when you go to chapter 14 talks about community-based healing. Okay. And then chapter 15 talks about policy recommendations. Those policy recommendations are policy recommendations to the masjids, to the institutions. Okay. These are some recommendations by way of healing, by way of solutions of how we can go into beginning to heal our community. But understand this. This book is only 262 pages. My research is much more voluminous than the book. And I did my best to not insult the Ummah by dumbing down my research to the point where, only fifth graders should read it. I was respectful to the intelligence of my brothers and sisters, but yet this is not a novel. This is not, you know what I mean? Raiders of the Lost Ark or some other type of book. So, it's going to command your full attention, and you're going to have to understand what you're reading. But I try to make it as palatable and as readable as possible. Maybe I missed the mark in some instances, but trust me, the actual dissertation is a lot more robust than this. And as a result of that, I am reaching out to therapists and clinicians and practitioners, and I am meeting with them on a Zoom call like this. I'm set up for like next Thursday to talk to professional clinicians and therapists in order to spend some time with them to go over the actual dissertation with them and to go over some of the actual implications and recommendations of the research, because I just couldn't put it all in the book. I mean, I just couldn't. And
Well,
so I've
we're in
got
a
to meet
wonderful
with people more. Huh?
we're in a wonderful time now. I'm reminded of Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois uh, discussing the fact that there was not much attention paid to our issues as a people and the challenges that we have. And so in this time, we have now this seminal work that is foundational, in my opinion, for this particular focus on Muslim African American uh, issues in terms of resolving spiritual abuse, not only present day, but we had issues before we were brought over here to be Negroes.
Right?
There were certain issues dealing with these issues of spiritual abuse, the manipulation of the spirit for control of the group.
Of
And
course.
so this is very important work.
Can
Uh,
can I jump in there come for a minute?
let me finish.
Oh,
Let me
I thought
finish.
you finished. I'm sorry.
Let me let me finish. This is very important work, not for the many, This is for a particular group that what we call the resourceful men and women that
Mm,
have a focus on helping us to have a healthier image, self-image. And
mm.
I'll stop with that. I'll stop there.
Oh, I'm sorry. No,
Yes.
go ahead. I'm sorry. No, no, I was going to just support what you're saying in terms of, I think this issue has long been swept under the rug. I think that's been one of the big problems is that this being Dr. Yusuf being one, if not the first, the only one that I know that had just thoroughly even looked at the problem.
Exactly.
And I think that it's as one thing what the sister told me, she said, the imam, she told me this, I think it was Saturday or Sunday after the program at the masjid. He said, the streets are talking. I said, about time. I said, because the families, the Muslim families were suffering so great, even though our numbers were growing, but we were growing with a defective a life. So I think this is so important. And I'm hoping, doctor, that you could make a commitment to come and you do Jummahs down in Baltimore to do some Jummahs up here in Philadelphia. Because I
Yeah,
think
I would love to.
I just got to talk with Imam Idris. I just mentioned to him that if you're available, because see what happens. See this is not the type problem we're gonna solve in one or two settings. You
There's
know what
no
I mean?
silver bullet.
No silver
There's
bullet,
no,
and
there's
you
no
gotta
silver bullet.
the people got to get the book. And I told one of the imams, I said, look, you gotta get the book and get a dictionary. I said, if you have
Yeah.
problems with the vocabulary, get a
Yes.
dictionary. All right, and that way, if a word you don't know, look it up. I said, this is what you just said. The book is it's not for children. It's not a children's book.
Yeah.
This book is solving problems that we have long, long ago pushed under the rug, and anyone who brings it out is given so many hadiths, so many this as to why you wrong, rather than looking at the implications of the book
Yes.
and try to use the methodology for healing. I think we're finally at that time in our history where you know that we can hear some sober, scholarly suggestions how we can get the community moving forward again. Because this
And these are pretty complex problems.
yes,
Let's
that's
be
what
clear.
yes,
Okay,
mm,
they are multi-layered.
multi-layered.
You have a hand up. I only have 5 more minutes.
Mhm.
I'm
Okay.
happy, Brother Hamin and Imam, to come back on the show, perhaps maybe next week or so.
That would be wonderful.
That would be
I did
wonderful.
look at my calendar,
Yes.
uh, Brother Hamin, so I will be available next Thursday at 9 for an hour. And but today I only have 5 more minutes, and I see that there's
Yes.
a hand on the iPhone.
iPhone.
I would
Yes,
love to
Identify
sir.
ask a
yourself.
question.
Identify
Yes,
yourself and welcome.
yes, sir. Salamu alaikum rahmatullah. Abdul Wali Shaheed,
Alaikum
gentlemen, and
assalam.
to the believers online. This, Dr. Youssef, we met at the round table out in Atlantic City a few
Okay.
weeks ago, and I sit in your company and to have felt the atmosphere and heard your words and your heart and mind. It was, you sold me off the rip. You know what I mean? That's the way I could put it. So thank you and thank Allah for you. Question to what I've been listening to in terms of the symptoms and the condition, the problem. The antidote is what? And if we can sum it up, I don't know, give some bullet points, inshallah. A teaser, even to give us a guidepost to even like start from. I'd appreciate you, doing that because you said a
Yeah.
lot, and the book
Well,
says a lot. Yes, sir.
this is, and I know. First, thank you for your question. Um, um, it's a good question, but unfortunately, the answer is not as simple for me to just say, well, here is the antidote, take that, and you will be fine,
No.
right? It's not this is not a Band-Aid solution.
Mm.
This is not simply a stopping the bleeding
Mm.
that you can put a compression on it. This involves major surgery
Mm-hmm.
that is multi-layered. So first of all,
I
let
mean,
me just, you wanted some mileposts. Let me give you a few. Um, Number one, with regards to leadership, leadership have got to create administrative policies within the masjid that addresses people's issues and complaints
Mm.
when they are brought forward.
I mean,
Leadership have got to stop engaging in institutional betrayal, because the masjid is supposed to be a sanctuary. The masjid is supposed to be a safe place. And let me just say this. I'm showing you my phone, and if you look at my phone, you will see this man. This is a Muslim imam in East London who was just sentenced today to life imprisonment for raping through spiritual abuse 21 Bengali women who
mm.
came to him
wow,
for counseling,
mashallah.
and he used the Quran and the Hadith to silence them with the hellfire if they complained and told anybody
Mm.
what he was doing. He was just sentenced today. You can Google it.
Allahu Akbar. Mm-hmm.
Spiritual abuse. Okay, 21 women over a period of years.
Mm.
You understand? And what I'm saying is, um, um, a month ago, you had a similar imam in New York who was arrested for molesting an 8-year-old
Mm.
daughter. Well, not an 8-year-old, an 8-year-old little girl. It wasn't his daughter. Okay, in New York City. These are extreme examples. However, people come to the masjid, you, me, our wives, our daughters, our children, as a safe space.
Mm-hmm.
That safe space should be sacred.
I mean,
Okay. The institution need to have policies and procedures that ensures the masjid as a safe space. How do you respond to complaints? How do you react to um, um, complaints about domestic abuse, domestic violence, rape, incest, etc.? Right? How do you react to that? How does the imam deal with that? You need to have policies and procedures in place that involve more than let's pray about it.
right.
Right?
Make
So that's a milepost if you want one, right? Also, when it comes to um, dealing with the community and what happens with the community, one of the things that we have got to practice with each other is compassion.
Mm.
Yes.
Compassion. Compassion in a way that it is free. The Muslim should be free from each other's hands and
That's
each
right.
other's tongues.
That's right.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
Surah Hujurat, the 49th Surah, ayat 11 through 13, Allah warns us to not criticize, to not backbite, to not invade the privacy, to not be suspicious, to not deal with each other in a certain way. And the commentary on that on that surah, on those ayats from both Ibn Kathir and Maududi is that this is the social representation of how Muslims should conduct themselves with each other and what is the social implication of how we should deal with each other. We deal with each other as Muslims, as African American Muslims, very harshly.
Yes.
We deal with each other very disrespectfully. If you have any doubt, just go online right now and see what certain Muslims are accusing me of. Certain Muslims in leadership have accused me for being a government plant. Okay? So I'm saying that the because of the way we deal with each other, okay, the way that we approach each other, okay, it's a problem. And as a community, the book talks about this. Okay, the problem is just not for Imam Alim to solve. Okay, it's not just for therapists to solve and clinicians to solve.
It's
The
a
community has a responsibility to
Yes.
each other.
Yes.
The community is accountable for each other. I am accountable how I treat you, and you are accountable how you treat me, right? And these are also mileposts of how do we solve the problem. Okay.
Yes, sir.
These are
Thank
mileposts of
you.
how we solve the problem. And these are just 2 or 3 examples
Thank you,
that
Doctor.
are solution based.
Yep.
And there are many more examples in terms of how we deal with husbands and wives, how parents deal with the children in the home, etc. And we can talk about some of that next week, inshallah. I've got to go.
So,
Thank
Doctor,
you.
thank you so much,
Thank you, sir.
thank you so much, and you know that we have great love and respect for you for come from this quarter because you have taken on a subject that's very dear to us in terms of helping us heal this community and stop pushing things under the rug. Thank you
Yes.
so much.
Thank you very much. Assalamu
Continue
alaikum
to
wa
bless and protect you.
rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum
Wa alaikum salam wa
assalam.
rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you.
It's okay, my brother. So praise be to Allah. It's beautiful. Okay,
Yeah.
brother Hamid, so we kind of over time, eh?
Well, no, we're good.
We good, all right?
Yeah, we got a little buffer time, and we
We
thank
do
the
okay, praise
audience.
be to Allah. I think a
We,
lot for this, brother. You don't know this has been a
yeah,
subject, family life for me.
yeah, yes,
It's always been one of my main concerns because I know that the community could never go to its potential if we have defective family life.
yes,
And I'm always telling the brothers and sisters who are not married, y'all gotta get married.
yes,
Get married because you can't develop a long-standing community if you got a lot of single people.
yeah. It really we've got to be more sensitive to our obligation to the group. It's not
That's
about
right.
a we're not.
That's
It's
right.
not about the
How about the
individualistic.
individual? That's right.
Uh,
And for its longevity, its longevity, see, discussion like this to me are so vital because it helps us. We have the tools now to begin to look at. You and I talk about this all the time about the role of leadership. Leadership is more than giving a khutbah. Leadership is hearing the believers' concerns, finding ways to help solve the problems so that so that the believer feel whole when they leave Juma, they leave the masjid. They feel safe when when they in the masjid. Because for
Yeah,
some people, this is their last hope. They've tried, they've been in the church, they've been in this, they've been in that, and they've been in different organizations. They come to Islam, and God forbid, they run into some of the stuff that he's talking about. My goodness, that
God,
make a person lose hope altogether.
I tell them, wait a minute, we're not in heaven yet. You need to understand this
Yeah, I'm
journey
saying,
that
but
we're
still, though,
going on.
you shouldn't be in hell either, though.
No,
You
that's
know what I
true.
mean? Like you said, if we show more empathy
Yeah,
and more compassion, we'll be all right.
yeah, yeah,
You're not in hell. I'm not heaven, but
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
but if I say on that point, though, keep in mind though, Allah tells us that you get a taste of heaven in this life,
yes.
right?
Listen, I want to thank you, Imam Abdul Alim.
Yeah.
Uh, this has been a wonderful experience. Dear listeners, we want to invite you to join us next week. Imam Abdul Alim will be sharing with us more insights into the sensitivities and sensibilities that we need to have a healthy and productive Muslim life,
Amen.
human
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
And this is going to be ongoing.
Yeah.
We've got work to do, and a lot of that work is on what the the big jihad of correcting self.
Correct self. That's right. Well, alhamdulillah, we making headway. There's hope. I would say this. I'm closing on this note. There's always hope as long as you can think. Once you stop thinking, you lose all hope because you're not trying to find solutions. All right, so
This
let's
is
keep thinking, and Allah will bless us
yes.
with more solutions. All right, so you want to close with dua?
Join us next week, dear audience. Uh, we're going to close out with a dua, a supplication to Almighty God. Oh Allah, guide us among those you've guided aright. Save us among those you save. Bless us in whatever you give us and deliver us from the harm that you judge. You judge, and none can judge against you, and those whom you befriend are not disgraced. Ameen. Thank you, dear
Amen.
audience.
Amen.
Join us next week. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.